Hello and welcome to the Rank and Flank podcast. I'm your host, Finton. These are my co-hosts, Ben.
Hello.
AJ.
Hi.
And Mark.
Hello.
Today we're going to be talking about the tournament that we went to a couple weeks ago with the Last Chancers gaming group, as well as the upcoming tournament at Underworld Gaming called Onslaught, I believe, as well as some of the lores of magic in the Art of War.
Yep.
A lot to cover today. Do you want to just jump right into it?
Seems like a good plan.
Alrighty.
The Tournament Zone.
Alright, so moving into the tournament zone. A couple of weeks ago, we went up to Wicklow and played in the Last Chancers 1500 point kind of a tournament. It was very narrative.
Yeah, I think it was more a narrative event than a
tournament, yeah.
But that was great.
It was really fun. I very much enjoyed it. All of us lost both our games.
Really?
No, I won. One of the
You did win one.
yeah.
I thought Ben was the only one that kind of saved our bacon.
Yeah, I won my second game.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. So
We're
So-
winners.
yes, that's all that matters.
We got a 1 out of 8 win rate across the four of us.
Flawless.
Indeed. So speaking of your win, Ben, do you want to take us through your two games that you did?
Yeah, sure. So the tournament was really interesting. He'd sort of the guy who ran it, Matthias, I think his name is. He'd created unique scenarios for each table, like defend the village or capture the artifacts, which aren't things that you'd find in the Old World rulebook, but he'd created them unique for the event itself. And so, from my understanding, none of the scenarios that we had were based on kill points at all. They were all based on objective points.
They were all objectives, and most of the objectives had to do with unit strength.
Yeah.
Which kind of threw me for a loop a bit. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, and at the end of each game, you'd roll a dice to see what reward you'd get. So depending on if you won or lost, or what type of mission it was, you'd be able to, add one more AP to a unit, or give a unit free shields, which is really nice. I like sort of the ability of carrying your units through multiple games. Although we only got 2 games played, it was really good, and I'd love to play in another tournament that format. But onto my games. Game 1 was against a lovely gentleman named Nigel, who was playing Demons of Chaos, which I was not expecting to see at the event. He was playing a Slanesh list, so he had a lot of demonettes, he had the flying things, he had a Seeker Chariot with a Herald of Slanesh on it, and he had the, I don't know what they are, I just know what they look like.
Keeper of Secrets?
Keeper of
The big
Secrets, yes, he
demon?
had a big old Keeper of Secrets. And it was a really fun game. Nigel was a lovely guy, very patient with me. And I think I killed more of his stuff than he killed of mine, but he beat me 7-5 on objective points. And we were each holding a tower at either side of the map, and he got to his tower a turn before I did. But overall, it was just a really fun game, and I think, Demonettes of Slanesh are a really fun army to play against, or Demons of Slanesh, because they just charge at you really fast. They've got so many attacks. They're quite squishy. I did manage to kill his Keeper of Secrets with my steam tank, which was unexpected, but I'll take it. And it was a really fun game.
Yeah, I haven't seen demons at any event before. Not that we've been to a ton, but it's kind of cool to see them out. And Slanesh especially is like the least popular demon faction.
For sure. I think it makes some people like, oh, this is a weird thing to be painting. Sort of this half-lady tentacle thing. But, they were really cool. And I think our demons in general, there's so many different ways you can go with that army. You can play like the tanky Nurgle list. You can play the super spellcaster Tzeentch list. And you can play Slanesh as well. And what's the other one? Khorne, which has the Bloodthirster, which is like weapon skill 10.
Yeah.
Absolute nightmare on the battlefield. But yeah, it was a really good game. And second game, I played against a Dark Elf list. And he just beat a Bretonnian list in his game prior. So I was like, oh gosh, I'm in trouble here. And he had quite a fun army, lots of troops, lots of Knights on Cold Ones, some Dark Riders. The not Executioners, but what's the other one?
Blackguard.
Blackguard, yeah, he had a massive Blackguard of Nagarond, a massive block of Blackguard of Nagarond. And
say that 3 times fast.
Yes, no, never. But the game was, I killed a lot of his units. It was one of those ones you had to pick up artifacts, and I essentially put them in my Outriders, I put them in my Steam Tank, and I kept them with the artifacts, and basically just shot him off the table. I sniped his wizard on turn 1 with a cannon. Just at the right angle past the hill. I think he was quite unlucky in that regard, but it was a really fun game. In terms of, he was a lovely guy. He had a good army. Those Cold One Knights are absolutely disgusting. I think they decimated my entire unit of 8 knights in one turn.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so if you can get past the stupidity and keep them alive to get them into battle, they're really good. But
can you give Cold One Knights veteran? Did we talk about this before?
You can't. There's nothing really to mitigate that. They gave the Knights leadership 9 at least to mitigate it a bit. But other than that, there's not a huge amount you can do. There might be, I think,
stick a character in them.
There's a Cold One banner. I think lets you reroll leadership tests. That's the closest thing to veteran.
That would be good enough.
Yeah,
because
you're sacrificing your magic banner slot, but
I mean, it's so that you get leadership 9 re-rollable, which is so much more reliable than just straight up leadership 9.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Just because I was thinking about Mark and his Cold One Knights have kind of underwhelmed at times. But yeah, anyway.
For now. But yes. His list was really
They're just
cool.
getting warmed up.
I think, so I won that one quite more handedly. I had a Demonology Wizard, which was unbelievably good. That signature spell that they have, which is basically like its own fireball that does slightly more, I think. It might be even at highest... No, it's got an AP value, whereas fireball doesn't, and slightly less range. That is very good.
2d6 strength for AP 1 or 2?
You know what? We'll definitely get to that in the next
section. Yes. To be continued. But yeah, it was very good. But the MVPs, for me, were one, the Steam Tank. It just charged into everything and killed it, and it's toughness 10. It's toughness 10 wounds, 7. Toughness 7. It killed
10, that'd be horrible.
It killed everything, which I wasn't expecting, and it tied everything up, and I think it took maybe 1 wound the entirety of both games, despite being locked up in combat for a really long time. But the real MVP for me was the Outriders. I think they are such a good sleeper unit. They get so many shots off, they're really mobile, they can fire and flee, and they even have a little bit of survivability with heavy armor. So if you take a sharpshooter with them, it's really cheap to get a small group of Outriders, which is skirmishers, so they've got 360-degree line of sight, and they were just picking off loads of units, running around, causing trouble. They were probably my favorite unit in the Empire. The one thing that I did take that I didn't like, handgunners. Handgunners kind of suck, at least in my opinion. They're just sort of static, they don't have much range, and so during those games they ended up just running around not doing much. But maybe I need to play some more with them, see how they work out. I'm sort of moving away from the infantry skew of Empire to the more mounted skew. But yeah, those are my games, and I'll quit talking about them now because I could keep talking forever.
No, the whole point is to talk about them. What's the range? What are the Outriders shooting?
Outriders are shooting a repeater handgun, which is range 24 inches, multiple shots 3, strength 4, AP 1, armor bane 1.
At ballistic skill.
And they're ballistic skill 4, but the champion is ballistic skill 5. So you're hitting on, it's usually 4s, 5s, or sometimes, if they're even closer, it's less. But if they do charge you and they're very close, you also have a pistol. A lot of people forget that. They have a pistol too.
Which is quick shot, presumably?
Which is quick shot, yeah.
So you can get that fire and flee if you still want to, or just stand and shoot.
Exactly. Yeah, super versatile, very good.
Or get a bunch of accurate shots if you really need them,
Yeah, I kept thinking, maybe I should use my pistol here, but the answer was always take the...
Roll more dice.
Yeah, roll more dice. Always roll more dice.
Yeah, fair enough. Should I go next then?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, no surprise, both of mine were defeats. First game was against Warriors of Chaos. I think a combination of being very rusty and bad luck. But we were fighting over 2 objectives, one on either side of the board. They were in the center, but left and right. And it was like a river scenario, so you had to either control the bridge or the ford, and you scored victory points for whichever one of those you controlled. And so we both kind of deployed heavily on the left side and lightly on the right side. And my unit over on the right was the scouts. And they basically got wiped out when I charged some Marauder horsemen. The scouts charged, the Great Eagle also charged. The Great Eagle died before they stood and shot at the Great Eagle. Lesson learned, a combination of things there. Like shouldn't have charged with the scouts anyway. Should have evaded with the scouts when anytime the Marauder horsemen came close enough to shoot.
It's really easy to forget that.
Right, really easy, and especially because the horsemen are very short range. I think they're only like a 12-inch range javelin or something like that. So the evade would actually put you at long range right at that point. And anyway, so that was the lesson learned on that side. On the other side, he had dragon ogres and a giant and a big block of warriors and some chaos knights. Chaos Knights never even got into combat because his wizard was in the warrior's bunker, and basically just between that and his BSB with the Ruby Ring of Ruin, they magic missiled off most of my stuff. And so I think I spent probably too long and not getting into combat and not really appreciating just how easy it was for damage to be done with the magic missile. So the Wild Riders did nothing because they got magic missiled off the table before they had a chance to do anything. The War Dancers did really good. I was kind of not anticipating how well they did. They more or less took down the giant by themselves. They had a bit of help, but I think they put 4 wounds on the 6-wound giant, which was pretty good. And the star, I think, though, of that battle and of the next one was the BSB on the Great Stag that I was so excited about last time. Oh my gosh, having a 2+ armor save and toughness 4, I feel invincible. I mean, I know I'm not, but in Wood Elf terms, that's pretty close. He did really well in terms of, I threw him into things and he did damage, and it was hard for him to be damaged back. I think he really shone in the second game, but he did do pretty well in that first game. Second game was against Tomb Kings. The Tomb King player had read the scenarios ahead of time and knew it was all about unit strength and just put a ton of bodies with a mortuary cult list onto the battlefield. His only big thing was the Bone Giant. Everything else was just... it was just infantry, and I think he had 1 unit of chariots. That unit of chariots actually charged my BSB, and he just stood there and took it, and then beat them back. So because they're very little AP, they struggled to wound him, and so I just love the 2+ armor save now. I can't speak highly enough of it.
Wood Elf player gets his first experience with a good armor save.
Yeah, I know, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
I know. All you people with your heavy armor as standard. Ha. And your full plate armor and all the rest of it.
Let me just hide my Chaos Knights over here.
Yeah, exactly. Second game was a lot closer. I think it basically came down to I think rolling under the odds for poisoned attacks. I think I shot his Bone Giant with 3 volleys of 9 poison attacks and did no wounds.
Wow. Okay.
And I think I only picked off 1 wound actually with the armor bane shots from the other guys.
Can undead be affected by poisoned attacks in this edition?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. It's just that there's no rule that says otherwise. So yeah, I mean, it was a big tough 6 monster, so it was my only chance of really taking it down. I think both armies were really well painted. A couple of guys from Dublin, I think that they had traveled together, so I'm sure they both got to talk about how easy it was to beat the Wood Elf player on the way back. I think I'm really kind of missing the mobility part of the army, and trying to understand how best to put that to use going forward. I think that's my big lesson learned.
Stick everyone on horses?
Well, yeah, I don't have that many models, right? That's the downside. So I don't know. I'll figure it out.
Do you feel like if Wood Elves are a puzzle, they would probably be one of the harder puzzles in the old world as compared to most other armies to solve, where maybe dwarves are the easiest because they can only really do one thing, but Wood Elves, they're incredibly vulnerable. they have a really high damage potential and they have high mobility potential, but working out how to do that's quite hard. And do you feel like you're getting closer to the end?
I think I am no closer to the end yet. I think the big problem I have is model range, right? I have the models that I had for my 8th Ed army, which is actually a 6th Ed army. Because when I started playing 8th Ed and Wood Elves, the 6th Ed army book was the Wood Elf army book. So I built the units that were good in 8th edition when Wood Elves were using the 6th Ed book. So that was before Sisters of the Thorn were released, before Wild Riders became the big damage output unit that they are now. So mostly my army is archers, dryads, tree spirits, right? The tree spirits were the best part of the army. Now they're kind of the weakest part of the army. I mean, they're tough, don't get me wrong. But they are their damage output is very low, and they don't have like there's no Wissen's wild form to give +1 strength and +1 toughness anymore, right? So I'm still,
unless you're in demonology,
which I can't get.
Yeah.
So I'm really just kind of trying to figure out how to move forward with the army, or whether to move forward with the army. I'm still in that sort of, because I haven't found any 3D prints that I really like to kind of go with what I've got. So that's where I'm at.
Do you want to move on to Mark now?
Yeah, Mark.
Sure. For me, I had, for my first game, Empire, against a guy called D, who was quite nice. Second game was against a guy called John, also quite nice, who had Bretonnians, so humans on both sides. The first game, I actually saw what a steam tank could do, and it didn't stop doing what it was doing. It was very much unstoppable. Probably has a rule called unstoppable, I'm not sure. Maybe.
Unbreakable.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Close enough.
So yeah, it pretty much just kept going through things. I destroyed. What did it destroy again? I think it went through my blackguard. Took out most of my executioners. It did a huge amount of damage.
Steam tanks love to eat infantry.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I let it charge a few times as well, which probably wasn't a good idea. I probably should have done the charging.
Not. That was definitely a bad plan.
Yeah.
Almost all of its damage comes from its impact hits.
Yeah, the stop attacks are pretty good, but I think it's D6 plus 1 impact hits, and it's at strength something crazy,
with
AP something crazy. Yeah.
It's like
learn that lesson the hard way.
How do I stop this thing? Make it charge me over and over again. That'll definitely work. So that was interesting. I did get a bit unlucky by matching up my Coleman Knights to his Demigryphs. But they still performed really well. I think for the first round I did like nothing due to poor dice rolls. After that, it evened up a bit, but they kind of took the oomph out of my charge anyway, because they actually have counter charge. So they just got their charge bonus in as well anyway. Very good models. Definitely stood out, like the steam tank.
He had a known army, I think. They were sort of like, I think they were painted to be a known army.
Yeah,
they were kind of brass and stuff. They were really, really nice.
I think it's black and brass.
Not oily.
I believe that at least Wissenland's colours are black and red.
Known as black and yellow, I think.
Nuln is black and yellow, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, each of the cities have different colours I'm not familiar with, but each of the provinces has individual colours, which I do know.
Yeah.
And Wissenland, where Nuln is black and red.
Ah, okay.
And they're known for war machines, and he did actually bring a cannon. The cannon did a bit of work on the Manticore, but I did get a bit lucky as well, trying to hide the Manticore behind like runes and whatnot, so that helped a little bit there for the Manticore to actually come in useful later on and start eating up like 10 guys a turn when he actually did get the charge in. So Manticore good, cannon kind of good. I mean, I was kind of standing my Dark Riders right next to it, shooting at it constantly. And I was like, why isn't this thing dying? He's like, oh, actually, I need to charge it to kill it in close combat. So
Yes.
not going to make that mistake again.
Yeah.
Other than that, the Wizard did a bit of work as well. One thing I did notice, yes, Empire Infantry, it is getting a bad rap at the moment, but for this actual setup where you need bodies on objectives, it came in like invaluable, because suddenly there was 40 guys on an objective and I couldn't really do much against that, apart from have my Dark Elf Warrior crossbow people shoot at it constantly. What else happened? Yeah, Manticore did a good bit of work. Dark Riders did a good bit of work as well, mostly shooting. I brought 2 units, I believe, and the second unit that wasn't shooting at the cannon did actually get a bit of work done on the core infantry, so that was interesting.
Because it wasn't shooting at something with toughness 6.
Yeah, multiple wounds as well. Oh, and also the Reaper Voltor actually did do a bit of damage to the Demigryphs, which was nice. I think... Oh, yeah, I did the big spear one, and it went through a few ranks. It did end up killing a Demigryph, and then I think wounding the other one. I'm not sure how many wounds. Maybe got it down to its last wound, I'm not sure. But Reaper Voltors actually did something pretty good that time.
At last.
Yes. I can see taking them in...
First of like 10 games that's done anything.
Yeah.
I can see taking multiple of them actually being much better than just taking one, because, as you mentioned before on AJ, they are a bit unreliable. 2 definitely is the way to go with them.
If you want to take them at all.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah. Second game against Bretonians, their charge wasn't as oppressive as I thought it would be, but they were charging into 2+ save Cold One Knights who have toughness 4, so can't really blame them for that, seeing as their core. So
I mean, yeah, if you charge a bunch of normal guys into a brick wall, it's not exactly going to go anywhere.
Exactly. They're a strange unit. I don't think the Cold One Knights not getting the charge is that big a deal, even though they have lances and all that, because...
Do they not have counter charge?
They have first charge. I don't think they have counter charge.
Oh, that sucks. Counter charge is really good.
Mm-hmm.
They do have fear, but I mean the Cold One Knights, I think the Cold Ones are actually a fairly significant addition to their attacks.
Absolutely. And
their initiative too, with Armor Bane and all sorts of stuff, so it does seem like it's not the end of the world if they get charged, as I saw. Other than that, I put Blackguard against the on foot Knights of the Realm for that game, and they actually seem to kind of bounce off each other a little bit. Peasant Bowmen, it was Men at Arms. No, I'm getting my units mixed up here.
I don't think there are any Men at Arms bowmen, it's just Peasant Bowmen.
Yeah, and I think it was Men at Arms. They're the guys with the close combat weapons, right? Yeah. I put my Executioners against that. They seem to do a bit of work, but also them being Men at Arms, they did their job of getting in the way as well. Brought the Manticore for that one as well, and I got what's that spell that stops you from being able to charge and I think reduces
Confounding Convocation.
Yes,
the illusion spell. I think it's
really
confounding. Yeah, something.
Yeah, my
we'll
Manticore.
talk about that later. But it's very good against big stuff. That's one of the answers to a dragon.
Yeah,
I quite like that.
That was a good answer to a Manticore before the Manticore could start doing horrible things. So
it's a small dragon.
Yeah. What else happened in that game? That was pretty much all the interesting stuff. Lost both games.
Any standout units in the Bretonian army for you?
Did he bring any Grail Knights?
Pegasus Knights. Those are the
The
scary
Pegasus
ones.
Knights cleaned up. They ripped through a unit of Dark Riders, went straight for a Reaper Boltror, and if they needed to, they would have been able to charge the Cold One Knights in the rear and definitely would have taken them out. I think they actually killed my Sorceress as well. Yeah, a level 4 Sorceress. So yeah, they ate up an awful lot of points. They did their job.
Fast,
well.
flying, hard hitting. They're really strong.
Yeah, they're good.
In an army where you can't get dragons, you can have some pretty strong flying things in them.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, and the stat line on their characters is crazy.
Insane,
Yeah, they're really good. For some reason, I mean, they're just humans, but for some reason they've got twice the stat line of an Empire General. So I don't know what they're eating in Bretonia, what they're putting in those crops that the peasants are.
They say some magic words and now they're as strong as a Chaos Lord.
Yeah.
Well, they basically just suck the life out of the peasants, because the peasants are all I think aren't they weapon skill 2?
They are, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so they're only as good as goblins compared to the state troops, right? But then the king, is it, or the duke?
Duke, yeah.
Duke or
The
Baron.
duke
Yeah.
is strength 5, tough 5. So I suspect they over-indexed on making the Bretonians awesome because they were the launch army, but nothing wrong with that. They were kind of in the doldrums for a long time. So
They deserve it. They've earned it.
That is literally a Chaos Lord stat line as well, which...
Yeah, I think they've been in army jail for long enough. Give the Bretonians a chance.
Have the Bretonians turn to the ruinous powers. Speaking of which, my Chaos Army did terribly. In all the games that I've been playing in the shop, I'd been getting a very big head about my list, which was, the big block of Chosen, walk forward and win. And I got put in my place in my first game against Tomb Kings. I brought a huge block of skeletons, a Necrosphinx, a Tomb Scorpion, and just a bunch of little skirmishing infantry. as well as a couple of horse archers. I couldn't catch any of it. Like, the first thing I did in my first turn is I cast Seed of Darkness and flew my big block of Chosen up the left side of the board, and it did nothing the whole game because of it, because it was frenzied and it just had to keep charging the little guys around the place. Only like turn 4, I think, that I actually get into anything important. And I was playing the artifact game that you mentioned earlier, Ben, about the
Picking up the tokens.
Cap the tokens. You have to have 5 unit strength to pick them up. So I had my units of dogs go and try and grab them and then get into cover or something, so they wouldn't get shot. But he just summoned he had 2 of the skeleton grenades, I think they were. Oh no, he had 2 of the double revive magic item, and he had 1 of the canopic jar or whatever it is, the one where you can throw
it and summon skeletons.
Yeah, an average of 10 skeletons.
That's so cool.
It is very fun. And he also had a whole bunch of From the Beneath the Sands things. So he just ended up summoning a whole bunch of stuff around the board and shooting off 1 dog, which then put me below 5 unit strength, so I could no longer carry the tokens.
Okay.
So at the end of the game, turn 6, I had a giant holding 1 token and sitting on another one, so he couldn't move, because when you have 2 tokens, you can't move, with 1 wound left. And it was a variable length game. So I rolled a d6, and the game did not end, and he shot off the giant, and I went from winning to getting destroyed, absolutely, in 1 shot.
Yikes.
Yeah. I mean, it was a fun game, though. The Chosen did kill things. They killed things very well when they got into combat, except the Necrosphinx, because... So, the Necrosphinx, I couldn't hurt it without my strength buff from Demonic Possession, because they're only strength 4, the Chosen. Mm-hmm. And with it being tough 6, I kept just whiffing every turn, mm-hmm. or dealing with 1 wound, and then he'd heal it with his big priest.
Yep.
And I couldn't cast a spell because I had to continuously follow up every single time with my
the downside of frenzy.
Yeah. So a couple lessons learned there. Don't stick your sorcerer in a unit with frenzy. I think generally I kind of want to. I had another big block of knights, which I think I want to split up in 2 blocks in the future. Have both of them be the frenzied guys, and just have the unit of Chosen be unfrenzied. I don't think I'm gonna. I don't know that I necessarily need to stick my sorcerer in the combat unit anymore. I could just keep him in the back in like a block of something as a little bunker, and then have him cast spells from there rather than being focused on doing a whole combat buff thing. Oh yeah, the other thing I learned, Fleshy Abundance, Nurgle's signature spell, is terrible. It is a remains in play +1 toughness cast on a 7+. Sounds great. It's remains in play, which means that the opponent can dispel it first thing on their turn. And it's a 7+, so they're going to dispel it if they don't roll double 1s. So essentially, every turn I would cast it, and then I get 1 turn of +1 toughness, where I have already killed the opponent's entire front line, so it doesn't matter. And then he dispels it, and it's gone. So that did nothing. And I could have been playing Tzeentch and taking the blue fire, which is an insanely strong magic missile. So that was a mistake.
Did the re-rolling 6s to hit come into play at all? Because I knew
it saved me about 3 wounds.
3 wounds, yeah. That's what I've heard about it. I mean, I haven't actually done the calculations, but I've heard it's not as worth taking as it seems like it might be. Or maybe sometimes it is.
It sounds great, and it's great against things as poisoned attacks, which he did have on his unit of Skeleton Warriors, thanks to a banner, I think. And it did save me a couple of wounds there, but like it was not worth it, I don't think. Especially not with Fleshy Abundance being as bad as it is. I definitely am going to take the Tzeentch mark in the future if I'm going to mark the Chosen. Or I might just leave them unmarked and mark the Sorcerer alone. My Giant was kind of just holding objectives the whole time. As I said, he picked up a token on the first turn, so he couldn't charge. And then in all future turns, he kind of just went around and tried to get more tokens without getting shot off the board. But that didn't go as planned. The Knight's first turn charged his unit of Skeleton Warriors, and I rolled horribly, so I was unable to do any damage to him, and they just died to attrition over time. The first game was, it was not great for me, but a lot of lessons were learned. Second game, I was playing against Miles, who we went to the tournament with, and he was playing as dwarves. Gunline dwarves. He had 1 big unit of warriors with a king in it, which I was very scared of, so I just didn't engage that the whole time. But he had some cannons. He had a bunch of rangers and quarrelers who just kind of shot things over time. And we were playing on that river board that you talked about.
Yep.
My strategy there was because the bridge was only wide enough for 3 models to go on, or like it was minimum width unit was the idea. I put my giant over there so that way he could smash whatever got into contact with him. Miles decided to put down some rangers over there and just shoot the dragon off of shoot the giant off of the bridge, which it worked over time.
Yeah.
I put my knights and I put my knights on the left flank to try and get the ford, and I put my chosen in the center, who would then fly over the river, which I did not know was just difficult terrain, and I could just walk over it.
Right, you're still stuck on 8th.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that you could just walk over the river, and that threw off my strategy entirely. Because there's a spot called the ford. You'd think that's the only spot they can go over.
Yeah, I think it was just dangerous terrain for
cavalry.
Cavalry, yeah.
So I messed up on that one, but until the very last turn again, we were entirely tied as I controlled the ford and he controlled the bridge. And then on the last turn, he walked his big unit of warriors who hadn't done anything the whole game and been hiding in the forest. He marched them 6 inches, and then he cast his spell with his Anvil of Doom, which I forgot to mention he had. He cast his conveyance spell, which let them move again. They marched another 6 inches and got in range of the objective, and with 20 unit strength, stole the objective from me.
Nice. Last turn for
very
one,
last turn.
1 point.
Yep. Yeah. It was 7-9 or something. It was very close. It was a very funny game. Lots of silly stuff happened, and my giant did fall on one of his units, I think.
Oh, nice. Oh, I forgot about the timber.
It's so easy to forget because it's useless.
Yeah, but I think it probably would have been useless in my game as well. One of my tree men died, and I just totally forgot about it.
Yeah. We decided because it was funny, we rolled the scatter dice to determine which direction it would be.
It's so much more fun.
It's so much more fun. And it ended up landing on one of his units
Nice.
and dealing 2 wounds. It was lovely. But yeah, I need to take more into account in objective-based games. I need to have more units that can take objectives, and I need to have fewer units with frenzy, because I was too used to the mindset of I'm going to kill everything from all the kill points games.
Right.
And that kind of screwed me in this tournament.
Yeah. Yes, sort of same. One thing that I remembered while I think it was while Mark was talking, the Tomb Scorpion. I know we geeked out about it in the episode about the Tomb Kings. The Tomb King player charged my Tree Lady General with the Tomb Scorpion in start of turn 2 or something like that. I was like, oh my god, this is actually going to happen, and I was just sitting there sweating bullets waiting for him to roll that 6 to wound, and thankfully he didn't. But I had I've no ward save, right? So I think the big thing that I've learned is that the Tree Man Ancient cannot be the primary spellcaster for the army, or should not be, because you really want to get them into combat a bit more. They're not very mobile, and
They can be shot from anywhere.
They can be shot from anywhere, you kind of. I'm thinking more that I want to have a level 4 off somewhere else.
Yeah.
I
had a similar experience with the Tomb Scorpion.
Oh yeah.
He charged into the rear of my chosen at one point. I was very scared. And then he proceeded to do 0 wounds with it, and then get demolished by the 4 attack chosen. So
I'm sure.
It's the 3rd time that I've gotten rear charged by something, and it's been annihilated. Mark, we've played a couple of games, and his executioners have got me in the flank.
It's like charging a hedgehog.
Yeah.
I think Elementalism didn't work very well for me. That I chose that lore instead of Battle Magic. Wasn't super impressed. In neither game did I roll the Plague of Rust, and so
it's the one you wanted as well.
It's the one you want, right?
It's the best one.
And not being able to take the lore familiar, I find it frustrating that when you roll a double, you have to re-roll instead of just pick from 8th ed. I think that was a much better, much more reliable. Should we say not maybe better, but much more reliable for getting the spells that you wanted.
It's worth taking the lore familiar now, so.
It's true. Anybody have any other thoughts on their games now that we've kind of gone round again?
I didn't experience any magic missiles on either side of any of my games.
God, I got both my opponents had the Ruby Ring of Ruin, and both of them had also an additional magic missile of some sort. And they, like, even the Strength 2 magic missile is very good against the Wood Elves. And the Strength 4 one from the Demonology just, nuked me. So I think I lost, over the course of both games, maybe half a dozen units to magic missile.
It's the Ruby Ring of You Win.
Yeah.
That's what I want to call it. I can't see myself ever building a list without it. It's just so points efficient. You can stick it on anyone. You can put it on someone who's the flank, so you never get dispelled.
You can give it to a champion a lot of the time because it's only 25 points, right?
I think I put it on my Demigryph champion, or even like your Greatsword champion. You can just put it on whoever you want.
It does seem the main restriction is that it has to go on the the ones that can take 50 points of magic items. So like most of them can take 25 points if they can, and then there's like maybe 2 or 3 units in the whole army that'll be able to take an actual Ruby Ring or Ruin.
How many points is it? Is it
double
30? Just to
it's
keep
30.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not too bad, but at the same time, like, I'm not really giving my champions anything anyway.
You might want to look into that, because I was actually looking this up for a few different armies. Wood Elves actually, I think they can take more magic items. This is a 25-point option on quite a few more units than most armies.
Yeah, but the choices are garbage. That's really what it comes down to.
Other than this Ruby Ring.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll see. I haven't written off the Wood Elves yet, but I also still haven't found models that I want to, put in the army yet to expand it. So we'll see what happens.
It does seem. I remember I was watching a video on overview of Wood Elves, and it seems like the extra few inches they get for their shooting range is something that could possibly be leaned into.
Yeah, I think the poison arrows definitely seem to be the way to go. A lot of the time, you're only hitting on 5s anyway, even with the other arrows, or occasionally 4s. But being able to skip that whole roll to wound malarkey, definitely was appealing. I think I got to figure out a way to put more arrows on the table, and I mean, really, it just means running away from my opponent more, right? And that's not how I really want to play.
It's the army you signed up for, though. So.
Well, it used to play differently, right? I mean, yes, the archers always ran away, but it was basically, here was this wave of archers to shoot at you, forcing you to come forward. And as you came forward, then the trees came out to kind of get you.
That's so like lore thematic as a way to play. I love that. Yeah.
I loved it too. And 8th edition, when the 8th edition rulebook for the 8th edition army book, came out, it kind of killed that play style. All of the tree spirits got a strength nerf and a bunch of other things, and that's kind of continued into Old World. So, I feel like now the way that I enjoyed playing the army, I haven't been able to recapture that yet. So we'll see. We'll see.
Shall we move on to the Onslaught in the Old World? Giving a little brief.
Let's do it.
That. So we have a tournament coming up on the 1st of June. Underworld Gaming, which you've all been to before. Actually, Mike, you haven't been, have you?
No.
But I've not been there yet. So you went there for a 1,000-point tournament when Old World launched. They're now doing a 1,500-point tournament, and it's all the games are open battle.
Yeah, three games of open battle.
3 games of open battle. There's been about 7 or 8 signups that I know of. I think there'll probably be a lot more people there on the day, and the only restrictions are like rule of 3. And you can even bring unpainted models. So it's quite open to a lot of people. So if there's anyone here who's in Ireland who wants to come and beat my trash Empire army, I wear a T-shirt that says "Free Win," and that'll be very good.
Hey, you're the only one who won, so
it should be all of us in the Free Win T-shirt category.
So that's going to be really good. I'm excited to that. We're all going to be driving up together. And there's a few people from the other tournament that we went to that'll be there as well. From my understanding so far, there's been 2 Warriors of Chaos players that signed up, though. If you play Warriors of Chaos, that'll be 3 Warriors of Chaos, which might justify me taking a Witch Hunter.
Well, we won't be matched together is the thing. We're on the same team.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, also that's kind of cheeky. It's like, oh, look at what people are bringing, and then bring the appropriate Witch Hunter.
That's very Witch Hunter-y, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's entirely the metagame, right? I think it's interesting because this is like the total, almost the polar opposite of the last 1,500 point event we went to, where it is purely based on kill points.
Means I'm probably going to end up bringing the extra frenzied unit,
right?
Which is just like, oh, I should stop bringing that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how different things are.
Well,
doing it that way.
The last tournament we went to, he sort of restricted people from bringing dragons. I think at 1,500 points, there's no restriction on dragons. Anyone who can take a dragon and wants to win will probably be taking a dragon. So Chaos Warriors, Tomb Kings, you can take one. You've got a Wood Elf dragon, right? So
there is one. There's a Forest Dragon, yeah.
Everyone just take a heroic killing blow sword.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it, to be honest. I think dragons at 2,000 points, they're not, super wild, but at 1,500 points, it's really hard to have an answer for a dragon in an army. If you're using war machines, except another dragon. I'm thinking about different ways I can do it. Do I take a level 4 illusion wizard with the confounding convocation? Do I put someone with a dragon slaying sword on a Imperial Griffin? But I think at 1,500 points, it's going to be a difficult question to solve.
Spectral Doppelganger.
Spectral Doppelganger, although the Mace of Hellstrom combo doesn't work anymore, maybe Ogre Blade.
Monster Slayer still works with it, so...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Spectral Doppelganger with... but then that's sort of expecting everyone to take a dragon. And at 1,500 points, that's a lot of points to dump into something, so...
Well, if you're taking a level 4 wizard on illusion anyway...
you may as well give him, the 50-point sword that gives him Monster Slayer.
Exactly.
Yeah. But then you probably want to take Lore Familiar if you're taking that sword. So
yeah.
you can picture that's an extra 30 points, plus the... I don't know. I'm thinking about it.
It's Empire Wizards, so they're already really cheap. So
yeah, I'm thinking I might just take 3 level 3s, and
ooh,
yeah, and then a guy with the Ruby Ring of Ruin, and
just missile your opponents off the table.
Well, look, I don't have a dragon. What else am I supposed to do?
You have an Imperial Griffin. It's pretty good.
They're okay. They're not.
They're no dragon.
They're no dragon, yeah.
They have a Griffonic pelt.
They do, which is sadly useless in, I think, every army.
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of bad. But I don't know. I haven't actually tried them on the table yet. I do have one painted up. I've got the Carl Franz guy painted up on Deathclaw. So I might end up
Give him the Monster Slaying Hammer. Be perfect.
Is there a Monster Slaying Hammer?
There's a Monster Slaying Sword. You just reflavor it.
Yeah, just bring Gal Maraz back from 8th edition and automatically wound and do d6.
Automatically wound, bypass armor saves, d6 multiple wounds, very balanced.
He's modeled with it, so I could probably get away with it. That's fine. I think it'll be fun. I'm not going to go in there super competitive, but I am predicting, and this is my prediction now because it hasn't happened yet, we will see a lot of dragons at a 1,500 point event, and it's going to suck for people who don't bring dragons. So,
okay.
But I think we'll have a great time anyway.
How many games do you think you'll win?
3 games, 0.
Okay. Confident?
Yeah, I want to know what all your predictions are. Finta, you don't know what army you're taking yet. You might end up printing some.
Yeah, I might end up bringing my Tomb Kings if I can get them printed off and painted fully. I'm really hoping I can. But
they don't need to be painted.
Oh yeah, it's true. They're already kind of bone colored anyway.
Yeah,
it's perfect. If I can print them off and base them and things, I might bring them. But if I end up bringing the Chaos, I'm probably looking at 1 or 2 wins, hopefully. That would be my goal. Would be 1. I'd be happy with that. If I bring the Tomb Kings, I'm also thinking 0.
Yeah, but it's all about having fun, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, for sure. I don't know what I'm going to be bringing, so we'll wait and see.
Orcs.
I am
goblins.
busy printing
Goblins.
more night goblins yet. So we'll see. It's I was thinking, what's an answer to a dragon? Does an Arachnarok work well? I'm not sure.
I think an Arachnarok would die to a dragon really fast.
You think so?
I think so. I think that a good answer to the dragon. What's the strength of a fanatic?
Strength 5.
Ah, damn.
No, that's a good answer to everything except a dragon. I think is what fanatic is. Does Wallopers One-Hit Wonder work with Spectral Doppelganger?
No,
it doesn't.
It doesn't really.
I don't think so. Didn't they FAQ that if it's just one attack, it doesn't. You can't use.
It doesn't say it's one attack. It says the first time they attack, the first time that they fight in combat.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if I can take illusion.
As a night goblin, you can. That's one. Yeah, they can.
Well, so the night goblin, yeah, that would mean not taking an Arachnarok because the night goblin can't ride an Arachnarok.
Oh yeah,
It's only a regular goblin.
I think normal goblins are elementalism and night goblins are illusion.
Yeah.
During the first round of combat, the wielder of this weapon can use it with this profile. At all other times, the weapon counts as a hand weapon with a magical attack special rule.
Okay, so in the first round of combat, is it first round of combat?
First round of combat. So you get your respectable doppelganger with 2d6, AP 3, a strike first hits.
The ultimate gamble.
And strength 10.
Wow.
Oh,
Does spectral doppelganger actually count as combat, or is it a shooting attack?
Yeah, no, it's an assailant.
It's
It's the
2d6
same as
additional
spell.
attacks with your profile.
That strikes first.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty gross.
It's a 15-point magic item, too.
Does it count as combat then?
Yeah, you have to be into
Definitely does.
combat. So that'll be interesting. If I was going to do that, I might think about taking like a huge block of
Goblin Spearman.
night goblins,
Yeah.
spearmen
Nice.
and netters, and put the wizard and the general and the BSB all in the one unit, and then everything.
Come
else.
at me.
Yeah, come at me, bro. Exactly.
The problem there is that if he charges in with like a unit of chaff or whatever, like some wolves, for example, then the wizard then has to use Walber's one-hit wonder. I believe. Let me just double check.
But if he only charges in with the wolves, you mean? I mean,
Oh, right, hang on. So, once per game, during the first round of
Once per
combat,
game.
the wielder of this weapon can use it with this profile.
yeah, once
Can.
per game.
So, I believe that that's optional. I'm not entirely certain.
Yeah, so if you throw chaff in, well, first off, you have to weather the fanatics,
It's true.
right? That's the tricky part. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
I've got a lot of printing to do if I'm going to have, because 1,500 points of goblins is
A lot of
still
models,
a lot
yeah.
of
It's
models.
like 100 models at least.
Yeah. I think I do have 55 spearmen printed so far, thereabouts.
Get some guys with arrows or whatever.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Let's go full infantry.
It'd be really fun to bring the night goblins if I get them ready in time. We'll
We'll have to see.
have to see. It's only 2 weeks away.
Mark, what do you reckon your results are going to be?
This is the first time I've actually really fine-tuned the list, because I've noticed one thing about taking multiple spawn units and all that sort of stuff. It doesn't work that well for close order 10-man units at all. They just kind of get in each other's way. So what I've done is a big block of Dark Riders for core, with all the upgrades and bells and whistles. Dragon, Cold Knights, Hydra. I think that's it.
Are you bringing a Hydra?
Yeah, I literally just before coming out here, I was drilling the parts of the two bodies together to try to pin like the main part of the body together.
Should magnetize them. The heads.
That's easier to do with plastic than it is with metal.
Especially when the heads and neck and all that are in separate parts as well. It might be a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of I look forward to seeing that on the table. Actually, that sounds good. Like a very cavalry heavy army. What's your spell casting? Or you?
I do have a level 4 in the list. I'm not entirely sure because I did notice in the Bretonian game that I played, if you just keep the wizards far away enough from each other, it doesn't matter if you take a level 4 or not. It's not going to do any dispelling at all. Like I was kind of thinking, yes, I'll bring the level 4 and the cold one for this one, stick it in with the Cold Knights. But in the future, maybe I won't stick to a level 4 in every single list. Maybe multiple level 3s, maybe multiple level 2s. Well, we'll see. I know that it's easier to do that in an Empire list, but I'm still not 100% sold on like level 4s every single list.
Oh, I am. I think right now I am. I feel like they offer just as much offense as they do defense. So not every spellcaster you're going to be able to avoid, I think. Some of them, a lot of them are flying around on stuff, on Pegasuses. Or,
Pegasi.
Pegasi?
Yeah.
Pegasi. Pegasuses sounds better, but it's a lot of S's. Okay, flying around on Pegasi or something else, maybe a magic carpet, and you won't be able to escape them. Which is great, by the way. I've never tried out the magic carpet magic item, but I was reading through the list of them the other day, and I was like, I want to take this.
I am thinking about taking a character using the magic carpet in my Tomb Kings list, because I've got a really nice looking flying model just of a single character, but there's no like direct parallel to it. for Tomb Kings, so I'm just thinking about sticking a guy on a flying carpet and charging him into people just for fun.
Nice.
All right, and then the last thing I want to mention, seeing I think we're kind of done talking about Onslaught, is that we're planning for Ireland's first Old World GT at the start of August, the August Bank Holiday weekend, which I think is the 3rd and 4th of August. It's going to be, the Rank and Flank Grand Tournament. It'll also be at Underworld Gaming. They're going to be hosting it for us. Don't have too many details yet, other than the date, the location, and that it's going to be 2,000 points. So I think the community's been kind of working their way up from from the 500 and 1,000 points games that we started off with, and so hopefully we should have a good turnout for a 2,000 point 2-day tournament. I'd like to get it to 2,500 points at some point. But I think we're probably, that's a next year goal. But yeah, it's kind of cool to be putting the first GT together for the country. So more details to come as we figure out exactly what the format of that's going to be.
Yeah, is it going to be? Do you reckon painted models only?
I don't think so. Just because we're still. I don't think I will ever run a tournament that says you must have painted models. What I will do is say you're not eligible for best overall prize unless your army's fully painted.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Right. So if some people don't enjoy the hobby part, right, and they just want to throw dice and push around toy soldiers, by all means, come ahead and do that. But the only thing you'd be able to potentially win is like the best general. So I'll put together a tournament pack. I want to think about like scenarios, make them a little bit more interesting than the ones in the book, and try and force people to build, I think, more balanced lists rather than just skew lists that are what's the most killy from my army. So we'll see if I can accomplish that. I've thrown myself that gauntlet because I've bitched about other people's tournament comp. And I'm like, I think you should be able to comp the whole tournament just based on scenario. Now I have to put my money where my mouth is and make that actually happen.
I'll make my own tournament with blackjack.
You've committed to it now. That's pretty scary.
Yeah.
You dove straight in there.
Well,
it was like one day it was like, I should run a tournament. And then the next day you were like, I'm running a tournament in August, which isn't even that far away. It's going to be 2,000 points. It's like, I appreciate that. That's admirable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've run tournaments before, right? So over in Seattle, I used to run one every year. Certainly I've been involved in the tournament organizer scene, which is a very small and tight-knit group. It tends to be that are literally the most helpful people in the world because it is so damn hard to run tournaments. So I kind of feel like it's people become tournament organizers after they have collected and painted several armies, right? It's like, what am I going to do next? Oh, look at all of this terrain I have. So yeah, we'll see. I'm not there yet, but I did really want to have a GT, and I kind of wanted to. I wanted to bring rank and flank kind of to the fore a little bit for folks. And give us a 2-day event for the first time. It's been literally years since I went to a 2-day wargaming event, so I'm very excited.
Well, if any of the Brits out there are listening and you fancy a 2-day holiday in Dublin, it's a great place.
It will be great, yeah.
Warhammer during the day, pub at night.
And what's interesting is for us folks here in Wexford, that's also the weekend where the big
the
Fla is on, which is the traditional Irish music, which like 200,000 people are coming to Wexford for that weekend. So I'm very glad to be kind of getting out of here and going somewhere a little less hectic.
True.
It's like 10 times the population of Wexford, right?
Yeah, Wexford town for sure. So yeah, that should be good. More details to come. Maybe each time we have a tournament zone, I'll have a bit more information. We'll see how we go.
Fantastic.
The Art of War.
Alrighty, so moving into Art of War, we've got a whole bunch of lores of magic to look at today. Wanted to just go over each of the different lores in the main rulebook and talk about each of the spells that they have and just generally how they work, as well as who has access to all of them. We're going to start going through them in the order of which lore has the most factions with access to it and which lore, then end with the lore that has the least.
Right. And if you can hear the birds in the background, those are actually real birds, not just a sound effect. There's been a bit of a heat wave the last few days here, and so we've got the windows open as we're recording, and they're just making me smile because it's nighttime and the birds are all going to bed, and so we're getting a little bit of bird music as we go into it. Well, it's perfect for Elementalism, which is the first lore. So everybody in the whole game can get Elementalism except warriors and vampire counts. And I'm not counting dwarves in any of this because they can't get any of the magic, but
losers.
Yes, warriors and vampires are the only ones who cannot get Elementalism. So if you're a warriors player or a vampire counts player, you can skip the next segment for a little while till we get to the next one, but everybody else has access to this in some fashion.
Starting off with his signature spell, we have Storm Call. The Elementalist channels the fury of a storm towards their foes, causing strong winds and icy rains to batter against them. It is a hex with a casting value of 7+, a range of 12 inches, which says, until your next start of turn subphase, the target enemy unit suffers a -1 modifier to its movement and initiative characteristics to a minimum of 1. If the spell is cast, the effects of any other hex previously cast on the target unit immediately expire.
I think this is kind of a meh signature.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It looks very meh. Like, in the number of times that this is going to affect a game is going to be very, very low. Unless you're fighting something like dwarves, which already have really low movement, so you can slow them down even more. But I don't know if that's terribly practical.
It's only range 12.
Yeah.
And that's really what makes it, I mean, it would be okay if it was range 24. Right. And then what you're talking about is, you're slowing somebody down as they come to you. Or maybe you're trying to move someone from like initiative 3 to initiative 2 so that even when they charge, you're still, I don't know. But overall, I feel like maybe the reason this is the most common lore and this is the kind of a pretty weak signature spell is that everybody's going to go into their faction lore spells instead of taking this signature.
Yeah, I pretty much concur with that. There's situations where knocking an initiative off an opponent could be really good. It could make a big difference, but it's not that reliable. It really depends on the matchup that you're playing. Especially
with how easy it is to get extra initiative in this edition, with charge bonuses, hitting in the flank and all that.
Well, and it's also a nombo with some of the other spells in the lore.
Every other hex.
Other hex, right? And there's a really good hex in this lore, which we'll get to shortly, Plague of Rust. And so, I mean, you can just cast them in a particular order, and that would work okay. But
it just seems
I'm not excited. I'm not excited to cast Storm Call.
Does seem a bit conditional, all right.
Yeah.
You'd have to cast it before someone is in close combat.
On the plus side, though, it goes off unless you roll a 2.
Yes, if you've got a level 4 wizard.
Which you should.
Sure. Yeah, we're just going to assume you're casting with a level 4 here. All right, Mark, why don't you do Flaming Sword?
With a simple gesture, the Elementalist summons a great flaming sword with which to strike their enemies. It's assailment, casting 8+, in combat. A single enemy unit the caster is engaged in combat with suffers d6 +1 strength 3 hits with no AP, and they are flaming, of course.
This seems pretty good for an assailment. Most assailments aren't as strong as the magic missiles that they are, paired with a lot of the time. But it's a nice thing to have on your wizard if you roll it. I would never go out of my way to get this spell.
Agreed.
I think that's the thing with assailment spells is you're never really going to go out of your way to get one. But what they do offer is something pretty valuable. It lets you hedge your bets with a wizard. Because if you get locked up in combat, all of a sudden, you're not casting your magic missiles. You're not casting your battlefield control spells. You lose all your utility. But if you have a flaming sword or a hammer hand or something, you're still able to add value. You're still able to make a big difference in the combat. You don't get wiped out immediately. So I think that's my opinion of pretty much all the assailment spells, except for that one with the flame template. Is it adds a bit more utility to your wizard. It makes them less useless when they're not shooting stuff. So
there is
I
one
quite like
massive
that.
exception to this, which we'll get to in the next lore.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah. That's the wombo combo
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Assailment's generally quite boring, I think, to talk about.
Yeah, I still haven't quite figured them out yet. That's for sure. I do like having an assailment spell on the Tree Man Ancient because
You want to get into combat.
she actually wants to be in combat. But this is not the right lore to do that, right? You would want it to be a signature spell, so you could always have the assailment in that case. Which case, battle magic is better. So
Especially with such a low wizard level on the Tree Man Ancient.
right, or potentially low anyway. So.
Yeah.
Okay, number 2 spell is Plague of Rust. As the Elementalist utters a curse, the armor of the enemy loses its luster, corroding and crumbling from their bodies. It's a hex, goes off on a 9+ with a range of 21. Until the next start of turn subphase, the target enemy unit suffers a -2 modifier to its armor value. And you can target an enemy unit engaged in combat, which is nice.
Ooh, I love this one.
This is the best spell in the lore.
Absolute
I
highlight,
think,
yeah.
in my opinion. It's here I'm going to basically AP2.
Yep.
I mean, thank you. It speaks for itself. Like, is there anything else to really be said about it?
It's amazing on Sisters of the Thorn.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think there's some armies it would fall
Yeah.
flat against. Wood Elves maybe being one of them.
Beastmen.
But, yeah, Beastmen. If you have like a Goblin heavy army. But if you're running into Chaos Warriors.
Or dwarves.
Or Dwarves.
Literally
yeah,
everybody else has something heavily armored.
Empire. Anything with Knights.
Maybe not Tomb Kings either.
Yeah, Tomb
Yeah.
Kings have a couple things, but it's not amazing against them.
No, but it's if you're choosing your spells with a lore familiar, you can obviously choose this one in the situations where it's going to be clearly useful, and choose something else otherwise.
If you're taking Elementalism and a lore familiar, you're going for Plague of Rust. Like that's the reason you take it.
Yeah, exactly.
Ben, you want to do Summon Elemental Spirit?
Yeah. Summon Elemental Spirit. The Elementalist summons forth a powerful spirit of earth, wind, water, or fire to do their bidding. It's a magical... Oh, that really hurt my voice. And I'm GMing on Tuesday. I've got to... Oh, no, you're GMing on Tuesday.
I am GMing
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Tuesday. You're
Gosh.
just playing.
I'm just playing, that's fine. It's a magical vortex, casting value of a 9+, so pretty high. Range is 15 inches. Okay, this is lengthy. Remains in play. Place a small 3-inch blast template so that its central hole is within 15 inches of the caster. While in play, the template is treated as dangerous terrain over which no line of sight can be drawn. The template moves d6 in a random direction during every start of turn subphase. Any enemy unit the moving template touches or moves over suffers d3 plus 3, strength 4 hits, each with an AP of -1. Any enemy unit, so it doesn't do friendly fire, which is unusual among these randomly moving vortexes. But I do quite like this spell. I think people are immediately going to be thrown off by the moves in a random direction, and I think maybe rightly so. But against certain armies, you don't really care where it's going to move. I'm assuming that if you're playing Elementalism, you're probably taking it on like a gunline range list, because it offers a lot of protection, it offers a lot of assistance to shooting. So you can just throw this out in front of you, make it, some dangerous terrain, do a bit of damage. What is it? D3 plus 3, strength 4 hits. That's pretty good. That's going to be 4, 5, 6 hits with an AP of -1. That's a lot of damage. So I'm not mad at this one. I think it's pretty good. What do you think?
Can you place it on top of another enemy unit?
Nope.
No.
Right. So you have to hope that you actually end up hitting something, which you might not. And if you don't, then even if you do, the enemy wizard is then going to attempt to dispel it, which they will do on a 5+ most of the time.
If they're in range of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's only 15-inch range, so if you're trying to hit a unit that the enemy wizard is in, they're going to be in range of you.
Right, and it's they have to be in range of the casting wizard to dispel it.
Yeah.
Not the spell itself.
Yeah.
On a 9+, so they need a 5.
Which is pretty easy.
Yeah, that is
I mean,
pretty
it's
easy.
not instant, but it is pretty likely that they're going to dispel this spell.
I find in general magical vortexes don't stay around.
Yeah. Particularly things like Phantasmagoria.
Unless they get very unlucky. So it's definitely it's okay. If it can stay around, it might do something. But every time I've cast a magical vortex, and I think I've cast one in every game I've played, they have been pretty useless.
Really?
Yeah.
I've had a different experience to that, especially since realizing that you don't have to just be in range of the vortex to dispel it. You just have to be in range of the caster. So there is more of a buffer between yourself and the enemy wizard when you're throwing these templates out there. So it's from my experience, it's not been super easy to dispel them all. There's one in Battle Magic that you get to choose where it moves, which I think is really effective, the Pillar of Flame.
That's a bit different, though. The random movement, I think, is a big deal.
Makes a big difference, yeah.
When it's not an amazing reward, like it's a kind of a slightly different fireball that moves randomly, so you've got a fairly good chance of just it going off and doing nothing. And then next turn the enemy wizard's going to dispel it. And if they choose not to, then it could just sit on the battlefield and do nothing. And you can't cast it again until it gets dispelled, right?
No, can you not dispel your own magical vortexes? I think
You can at the start of any subphase.
Right.
You can dispel your own remains in play spells.
Okay.
I did that in my game against the Dark Elves with my the Demonology Vortex, which I don't think is very good. And then I just threw it down again, and it was in a much better position. It's almost like, oh, that one didn't work. Let's try again.
I suppose if you could get several wizards with the same spell and they were all summon elemental spirit, block up the board.
I mean, I think there are other spells, other vortexes that can help do that are probably a bit better. This one is actually quite tough to cast on a 9+, so it's not like you could just give it to a level 1.
It's not an amazing amount of damage either.
It's not.
And the random movement, I feel like it's not amazing in the spell.
No, it's okay.
Just like most of Elementalism.
So far, except for Plague of Rust, which is clearly the best.
Yes. All right, I'll do the next one. Earthen Ramparts. At the Elementalist summoning, mighty earthen ramparts rise up about their allies. It's an enchantment with a casting value of 10+, which is the highest. 15-inch range. Until your next start of turn subphase, the target friendly unit gains a 5+ ward save against any wound suffered and counts as being behind a defended low linear obstacle if charged. However, whilst the spell is in play, the target unit cannot march or charge. This one I had used against me in my first game at the last Chancer's event on the Tomb Kings. He put it on his big unit of skeleton warriors, and it made them really, really hard to kill. And that's why my Chaos Knights kind of just bounced off them and did nothing. It is a 5 ward save is a big deal unless you're playing Chaos and you have chosen. But a 5 ward save is really quite good.
I think it's good especially for Tomb Kings who have an armor save and a regen save.
And can't march.
And can't march anyway, right? Oh, you cannot march or charge, but you can still move as normal? Okay. Yeah, this is all right. I have used it. I was underwhelmed by it, but I don't think I was using it particularly well.
Makes your anvilier.
Yeah, right. And anvils are not really something that I've put in the army so far.
Yeah. Notably, you cannot put it on a unit that is in combat.
Yeah.
That kind of stinks, especially on a 10+.
But on the other hand, it's not a remains in play spell. Mm-hmm. So it is just an until your next start of turn subphase. So you get it for your turn and for your opponent's turn.
Yeah.
What does being behind a low linear obstacle mean in terms of taking a charge? Do they have to take a terrain test when they...
No, I think that they just get disrupted, so they don't get their initiative bonus or their
that's right.
rank bonus.
Or there was something about being on higher ground. I haven't looked at it in a while, though.
Yeah, the terrain rules are weird. I've not really read them through properly. I need to do that.
Yeah. I'll look it up while we're doing the next spell.
You want to go for it, Mark?
Yeah, sure. Wind Blast. A mighty wind rips enemy warriors from their regiments, dashing them against the hard earth. It's a magic missile, casting value of 8+, and a range of 15. The target enemy unit suffers D3 plus 3, strength 5 hits, each with an AP of -1. Once these hits have been resolved, the enemy unit must give ground. Oh, pushes it back. That's actually, I like stuff like that. I like thematic things. I mean, I know I didn't mention it, but for Summon a Little Spirit, the kind of theme there,
Getting a big elemental which then walks around and punches things.
Yeah, and then you can actually make something to represent that. I like stuff like interactive kind of thematic stuff. Pushing back things. That kind of thing is very, very cool for me.
I think one interesting thing about this spell, Wind Blast, is if you really want to be a dick, if your opponent deploys within however many inches of the table's edge, 2 inches of the table's edge, you can just make them give ground off the table on turn 1.
And then the unit's gone.
Yep, the unit's gone.
Unfortunately, the range is only 15 inches and you can't move your wizard before. So unless you're in a really weird scenario where you can get within 15 inches of your opponent who's on the edge of the battlefield, which, I guess it can happen if you're on the diagonal deployment.
Well, it's more that, people deploy stone throwers and stuff like that in the corner. Or, something that has a really huge range. They put it up against the back of the battlefield to make it so that you've got the longest possible distance to get there to take them off. So, yeah, if you could fly up your wizard on turn 1...
On a magic carpet.
Or whatever. And then turn 2, push them off. Maybe, yep.
It has some utility there, but I think the big thing here is it's D3 plus 3, strength 5 hits. That is strong.
Oof. Yeah.
With an AP of 1. That is stronger than Fireball.
Yeah, so good. Well, but it's only, it's 4 to 6 hits. So it's, to me, that's good at taking out...
Trolls?
Yeah, units that have, exactly. Monstrous Infantry is what I was thinking of. Stuff that has not too much of an armor save, but maybe a higher toughness.
But compared to Fireball, again, which doesn't have any AP, this is quite nice.
Yeah.
And the Give Ground is nice. I think this is another pretty good spell of this lore.
Yeah, and it's a low casting value. 8+ is pretty easy to get off.
You could slap this on a level 2 and give him a flying carpet and go after enemy war machines. That'd be hilarious.
All right, and then the last one, Travel Mystical Pathway. All right. Tapping into the power of the geomantic web, not the World Wide Web, the geomantic web, the Elementalist opens a portal through which their allies can travel. All right, so this is a conveyance. It goes off on a 10+. It's only got a 9-inch range. If the target friendly unit is not fleeing and is not already moved during this movement phase, you may immediately remove it from the battlefield and replace it anywhere within 12 inches of its original location, but not within 6 inches of any enemy models. It may not move again during the movement phase. I had this spell, and I found it a bit meh.
When do you use it?
Well, it has to be used in the movement phase because that's when conveyance spells are cast. So you're not allowed to have moved already, and you don't get to move again, but you get to be basically replaced 12 inches away. For most of my units, that's not really that big of a deal.
I think the nicest thing there is that you can move 12 inches and face any direction. Can you? It doesn't say anything about facing, actually.
No, it doesn't, which is a little...
That seems like an oversight.
Yeah, I would assume you can't reform or anything like that.
No.
But you are being placed, so yes, I would assume you could point any direction. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. So that might be, I think there's situations where, maybe, 12 inches, because it's only a 9-inch range and you can only move them 12 inches, it's not like you could really use it to teleport them from being in front of an enemy unit to being behind an enemy unit.
Especially not because you can't be within 6 inches of them.
Right.
So you'd have to already be within 6 inches of them in order to get that, which is not amazing.
Yeah.
You could maybe get it on the flank, but...
It's more like something to kind of get you out of the way.
If you're already in combat and you don't want to be in combat.
No, you can't cast them on combat.
Or does it say that?
No, you just can't cast spells on anybody in combat unless it explicitly says.
There's a different one which does affect units in combat, which is meant for that purpose.
Yeah.
But it's not this one.
No. So, maybe this is a good spell for that sort of don't engage with the enemy style of Wood Elf play. I'm like, I was up there, but now I'm 12 inches away.
Definitely some niche use, but on a 10+...
I guess you don't count as having moved. So, you would still keep your ballistic skill. You wouldn't take that -1 for having moved.
See, now that's silly, and I like that.
Yeah. I think for me, if I'm putting a ribbon over the Elementalism, the School of Magic, I'm thinking this is like a nice accent piece for a gunline army, because everything's about sort of pushing your enemies further away, making it harder for them to get to you, making it easier to shoot them, making it harder for them to damage you on the charge, because you're not charging, you're taking the charge. And then when they eventually do get to you, if you want to pull some shenanigans and just make them go underneath their entire army and pop up around the back end, you can do that. That's the flavor I get from the School of Magic. I don't know if you agree.
Absolutely, and when you put it like that, I mean, it does seem like that is the sort of lore that should be good for stand back and shoot sort of wood elf list,
Empire
list,
yeah.
Sure. But anything that wants to stand back and just shoot at stuff, even like the Tomb Kings potentially, they do get it right. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
If they want to lean into the arrows of Asaph and try and force people to come to them a bit more.
I think though, my taking of this, trying to use it in my army, is I'd probably want another level 4 with another School of Magic to sort of partner with this, like a good cheese and a nice wine. You want to take this for the extra bit of defense, the extra bit of utility, but you also want like a demonology to do some damage.
That's the cheese.
Yeah, also yeah, that is the cheese, or fireballs, or a ruby ring of Yuin. And or something, even necromancy, you'd want something a bit more offensive. So, you are a gunline, you're throwing out magic missiles, you're doing damage, but then when they do reach you and you want to keep them away from you, you have elementalism to just be completely annoying. And that's sort of how I view it.
I think this spell in particular has some funny use with pistoliers from the Empire. So they have a 19-inch charge range, right? And they're impetuous. So what you could do, you could set them up 20 inches away, and then cast this spell on them after the charge part of the movement phase is over, so they don't have to charge. Teleport them up. Oh, I guess they could already just move up, couldn't they?
Yeah.
Never mind. It's so hard to find a good use for this spell.
Yeah.
It's so hard to find a good use for pistoliers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trust me, I've tried. I thought, what if I put them with a priest of Ulrich, and then they have the extra attack, but they're doing 2 wins? No, it doesn't work. They're just bad.
They're so bad. And it's a shame. I love the unit.
All right, so I think we're saying Plague of Rust and Wind Blast, both good.
Everything else is meh.
Everything else is situational.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to give it a grade? Shall we
do a tier
thing?
list?
Yeah, maybe we should.
I mean, my vote for this is B.
A B?
It's
I'd
a
say
solid B.
Honestly, I'd say this is more of a C.
Wow.
With
What are our range here?
A, B, C, D, F.
Okay.
I think that this is a C. 4 out of the 6 spells and the signature are all Plague of Rust is pretty good. I like the spell. I don't know if I'd go out of my way to take this lore just for Plague of Rust on a level 4 as my only wizard in the army is the thing.
Don't do it unless you can get a lore familiar, because otherwise you won't roll it in the 2 games at Last Chancers.
Right. I think this is great with a lore familiar, assuming you also have a good army lore, which you can take a spell out of. But it's not amazing. I think a B is a bit too high for this.
I mean, do we have to have? Are we assuming that there will be an F?
I mean, no. Look. We can spend the next 2 hours talking about criteria.
I think this is a weak lore, but that could also be that I am still tactically weak and don't know how to use it.
We'll have a re-examining later.
Yeah. No doubt. After a year's worth of play, we come back to this and go, oh my God, how did we not think that Elementalism was the best?
But that's fun. We get to mock our past selves.
But right now, I think
Stormcall's amazing. What were we talking about?
I think this is pretty weak sauce, so I'm going to give it a D.
Wow.
What about you, Mark?
I like Earthen Ramparts. I just like my 5+ word, but that's probably because of Oaken Shield and Battle Magic and me loving that spell.
If you like Oak and Shield so much, why don't you just play Battle Magic? Is the thing.
I do, but then I keep losing.
Yes, upgrade to Elementalism. That'll help you win.
Upgrade.
I like the shenanigans of other lores more, but I don't think it's a C. I would put it as a B, to be honest.
All right, so averaging that together, do we want to call it a C+?
Sure.
C plus, B minus, C
Yeah.
plus. I think
The B and D cancel out. Yeah, so and then the C and
Yeah.
B would make a C+, yeah.
All right, there we go. C+. Should we go on to the next one?
Yes.
All right. So, looking at our spreadsheet of which can take what, thank you for putting that together, Ben. Number 2 most common lore is illusion. So, again, this is not available to Warriors of Chaos, Beastmen, or Chaos Dwarfs. So, basically,
If you're playing Chaos, you don't get to be Illusion.
yeah, except demons, but presumably comes from
It's just Lord of Change. That's it.
Lord of Change.
Yeah, the Zinch can take it.
Makes sense. So yeah. Okay, illusion.
Who wants to start us off with this one?
I think it was me next.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Oh, that is not illusion. That's high magic. Okay, illusion. So signature spell is called Glittering Robe. Shimmering light radiates from the illusionist's garb, dazzling and confounding the enemy. All right. So it's an enchantment on an 8+ that you only target yourself. Until your next start of turn subphase, enemy units suffer -1 modifier to any rolls to hit made against the caster and any unit they have joined. And then it's got that wipeout effect of taking any other enchantments off if you've cast it.
So you become a disco ball.
Yeah,
That's what's happening.
you become a disco ball. You become all sparkly, and needless to say, it is an elven picture. That does indeed look like an elf.
A Spellweaver, yeah.
Spell
Some
weaver.
sprites around her too.
Yeah. So I actually really like this as a signature spell because it's any rolls to hit. It's not just in combat. So it means you're -1 to be shot at as well, which is I think
Big deal.
it's decent enough.
It's hard to get a -1 to hit from shooting as a spell.
That's for sure.
I definitely see why this isn't available to Chaos, because if you had access to this with the Mark of Nurgle, this could be really, really nasty.
Right. And I guess this is probably why people aren't allowing allies at tournaments.
Allies break everything anyway.
I don't think anything's that
Nah.
busted at this stage anyway. So, but yeah, I mean, this is a signature spell that I would strongly consider taking. Again, depends on what army you're
Have
playing.
to see what the 1 to 6 are. So.
Yeah, but it's a good signature.
I think if you're building a combat illusion wizard, which we'll come to a little bit later, this is another little layer of survivability
For sure.
that could help you as you're flying in with your stupid weapon. Your wizard wielding a weapon that's... Anyway, we'll get to that later, but I think this does combo well with some of the other utility of this lore of magic, so I quite like it.
Also, notably, it doesn't have any other enchantment spells in this lore, so there are no non-bows with scrubbing your own enchantments.
Right. All right. So it's only if you have another wizard.
Yeah, unlike with Elementalism, which has a bunch of other hexes. All right, Ben, you're next up.
Mind Razor. Torturous illusion grips the enemy. Only those with the strongest of wills can resist. Was that
Saltspire?
was that
Yes.
Saltspire? Yeah, I sort of
Possessed by the spirit of Saltspire?
Yeah, just when in doubt. Type Magic Missile. Ooh, Magic Missile. Cast on a 7-up. Very easy cast. Range 15 inches. Not great. So let's look at this. The target enemy unit must immediately make a leadership test. If this test is passed, it suffers D3 Strength 3 hits with an AP of dash. However, if this test is failed, it suffers D3 plus 3 Strength 4 hits with an AP of -3. So it's a magic missile, which is automatically like a plus because magic missiles are pretty great. But it depends what you're hitting, because leadership tests are pretty easy to pass, and then you're just doing D3 Strength 3 hits with no AP.
Particularly with only that 15-inch range, you probably only get one cast of this before the enemy gets into combat.
I think this is up there with Doombolt as my least favorite magic missile. But if it fails for whatever reason, you're doing 4, 5, 6 strength, 4 hits with an AP -3.
-3 is huge.
That is huge. That will completely... That's like, oh, you have plate armor? No, you don't. It's...
I think it's a good thing to shoot into Empire Knights, assuming they don't have any characters near them. Because they're only leadership 8, right?
Yeah, the leadership 8.
Dragon ogres.
Dragon ogres, yeah. Any monstrous infantry.
Yeah, Skaven.
Yeah, Skaven. Oh, Skaven get fucked by everything anyway.
Yeah.
Orcs and goblins, they have quite low leadership.
I'm just... Honestly, I'm just saddened that Mindraiser has fallen so far. It used to be something that dominated in 8th edition.
Wow, okay. What were the rules for it back then?
Oh, so back then, if you cast it, the target unit all made their close combat attacks with a strength equal to their leadership.
What?
Yes, yes, and that's when strength was also tied to AP. So here was your it was mostly dark elves that were doing it. Here was your dark elves, especially like your witch elves or whatever else, all in range of your general. So here you go, leadership 10, strength 10, AP -7 or -8, whatever that was. Ridiculous. It was basically used it to delete units. Beastmen did it as well. Anyway, it is definitely not the powerhouse that it was.
You see, it's because Occam's not come around and invented it yet. This is just the early precursor version.
That's right. It was called Occam's Mindraiser. Occam really tweaks it in the 200 and some years.
Yeah, changes it from a magic missile to an enchantment. So yeah, quite a big change.
Yeah,
I mean, 7-up, it's pretty easy to cast.
very easy.
I feel like, I don't know, if there's any reason to take a low-level wizard, this is like the kind of thing that they can just consistently throw out. But then I don't ever see myself taking a level 2 or even a level 3.
Because it's so hard to...
Yeah.
You might end up rolling Miasmic Mirage on your level 1 or your level 2, which is just terrible.
And honestly, whenever I roll this, even on level 4, I think I just swap it out for Glittering Robe. This is a prime signature swapper.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Next up is Shimmering Dragon. An incorporeal dragon materializes over the battlefield, stooping low to bear aloft a mighty champion. It is a conveyance spell with a casting value of 8+ and a range of 12 inches. This spell can only target friendly characters. If the target friendly character is not fleeing and has not already moved during the movement phase, it gains the Fly 10 special rule until the end of the turn.
This is okay.
Yeah. I mean, it is fine. I feel like there's a lot of other ways to give a single... Actually, hang on.
It's a character.
Yeah, it's a character, but it does not necessarily say that it can't be a monster.
Absolutely. It could be... It could literally be any model as long as it's a character.
Right, so there's your wingless demon prince. No, not demon princes, because there's no chaos. Your tree lady.
Yep. Yeah, theoretically.
That can self fly.
Fly 20. I mean, that would be a pretty fun charge.
Arachnarok Spider. That's another one.
Can they get illusion? No, they can't get illusion on that one.
No, you could
could
target
cast
it
it on
with another.
You could have it in the army. Yeah.
You have to mix knight and regular goblins, which is just gross, though.
Yeah.
What if
Like
you
Maybelline.
put a character in a chariot? Do they still retain character?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So flying chariots.
Yeah.
Or, this
Send
is
a sleigh.
available to Ogre Kingdom, so I'm just thinking about those big, like, thunder tusks and stone horns.
Oh
That
gosh.
they've got. Yeah, there you go, Fly 20 with that. But it is kind of situational, and so
What has this in ogres?
what?
What has this in ogres?
I'm guessing one of the
The slaughter masters, or whatever they're called, the wizards.
There's butchers are the wizards. There's two types of wizards: the butchers and the fire bellies.
Yeah, they're only level 2s, I think.
Yeah,
and, then
I think the butchers and it might be called slaughter masters
Yeah, I think
at the top level.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Anyway.
they have it.
Yeah, it's great if you use it on a monster. My first thought was, why not just take the flying carpet? But it can be used on things that aren't infantry.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal.
Yep, and it's a spell rather than eating into your points.
Mm-hmm. It's fine if you roll it.
Yeah, none of the lores. I don't think any of the lores have 4 spells where you're like, I want all these 4. Maybe they will. Maybe we'll get there, and those will definitely be the A tier ones.
I think demonology.
Demonology,
definitely.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, I don't have access to
I
that
took a
one,
lore
so-
familiar with demonology to get 4 of the spells in it. So
Interesting. Okay, good. I'm glad to be talked down from that. Okay, so next up,
Column of Crystal. The illusionist conjures forth an illusory column of crystal. All that see it believe it to... Oh, sorry. all that see it believe it to be utterly impenetrable.
You ruined my immersion.
Sorry.
You're the voice.
Sorry.
There are.
It's a magical vortex, casting value of 10 plus, range of 9 inches, and the effect is it remains in play. And you put down a 5-inch blast template, so the big one, so the central hole is within 9 inches of the caster, and while in play, the template does not move, and it's impassable, and no line of sight can be drawn through it. So there's your Pringles can.
It's a lot bigger than a Pringles can.
A lot bigger than
Two
Pringles
Pringles
can.
cans.
It's like
4.
Yeah.
a bowl. I don't know. It's 5 inches template is massive. I really like this one.
This is
I think.
really strong.
Yep.
Yeah, in the right army and the right list, this can completely change a game. You can just take something out that's coming towards you and be like, oh, you can't really get past this.
My, that sure is a nice unit of knights you got there. Sure would be a shame if I blocked their entire front arc.
Yep.
Oh, nice war machine. It can't see.
If I can't see you, you can't see me.
Yeah.
I mean, it actually even has a chance of staying in play because it goes off on a 10 plus. So it's not trivial to.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still more likely to dispel than not.
Right, but it's as hard to dispel as it is to cast, and it's hard to cast. So
Yeah.
the downside is 9-inch range, but it's definitely good for blocking off things that you can do. Like it's great for blocking charges. It's great for manipulating movement. Like this is a really strong spell. I think anyway.
Mm-hmm.
What are sort of the utilities? Because I think I have a bias here that every time I see these spells, I'm thinking about it. Right, I'm playing a gun line, I'm playing Empire, I'm playing something that sits there, and how can I annoy my opponents as they try and get closer to me while I shoot them? But is there utility for this as with like a more offensive wizard build, where you can put it down as you're flying around or helping it with your charge?
I think it's tricky because in your opponent's turn, they're going to get a chance to dispel it
Before anything else
happens. So let's ignore the dispellability of it for a moment. I think in the scenario you're talking about, I would absolutely see being able to like protect your flank from being charged or protect a key unit from being targeted in any way, right? The line of sight thing, definitely good for helping prevent certain surprises. It's, anything where you're affecting the terrain of the board is a good thing, right? This game is about movement. Terrain is the most important thing that determines movement in the game. So obviously, aside from the stats of the models, blah blah blah, but like when you come to the battlefield, the terrain dictates what you're able to do. If you're able to change the terrain, move the terrain, add to the terrain, that means that you have more control over the battlefield than your opponent does.
This is a big terrain piece.
It is a pretty big terrain piece.
5-inch template is really you can block a unit's entire front rank
If
front arc.
If anyone had this for the Wicklow event, you could just take off access to an objective entirely.
Yeah.
Just know you can't claim the objective for a whole turn.
Right. If unless you can dispel it, there's no way. If you especially things like that river where the only safe way to cross was going over the bridge or the ford.
You can't come on the bridge.
It's
my bridge
come
now.
on the bridge, yeah, or you can't come over the ford.
This sucks for dwarves.
There's so much utility with it.
Take 2 level trees.
Yeah, dwarves only have a
cast
level
it twice
tree
in the
to
same
spell,
thing.
Yeah, you certainly could. I think level 3's going to have a harder time getting the spell off because it goes off on a 10 plus. You still need a 6 for it to go off with your wizard, your level 4. So it's non-trivial, but it's of all of the vortex spells, this one's seems to be one of the stronger. Okay, confounding convocation. The enemy is bombarded by wild and disorienting images and dancing lights that render them all but blind to the world around them. Okay, it's a hex. It goes off on a 9 plus, only a range of 9 inches, and remains in play. Basically gives the target enemy unit stupidity. So
a lot of spells in Illusion seem to have a really low range. I think they do want you getting in there with the next spell that we're going over.
Yeah.
It seems like Illusion is a good lore for a combat wizard.
Yeah, maybe. I think
This spell, not so much, though. This is...
Yeah, again, it's anything that remains in play is a little weaker. To me, or maybe I'm just playing the game wrong, but, every time I cast a remains in play spell, it gets dispelled the next turn.
Particularly with such a short range, you can't, snipe it from across the battlefield to keep your wizard out of dispel range.
Right. You have to be real close to make them stupid.
Yeah. And if then they succeed their stupidity test, they're going to charge you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. This to me is a trade out spell.
Yeah, this is another swap for your signature. Because the signature here is really good.
Yeah.
All right, Ben, you get to read the fun one, if you like.
Okay. Spectral Doppelganger. Like the surface of a mirror struck a mighty blow. Like the surface of a mirror struck a mighty blow. The illusionist's image fractures, revealing a myriad doppelganger likenesses. It's an assailant spell that casts on a 9-up. Its range is combat, obviously. A single enemy unit the caster is engaged in combat with suffers 2d6 hits. Resolved using the characteristics and special rules of the caster and of any weapon they carry. This is the combo piece of Warhammer the Old World. This is my favourite thing in Warhammer the Old World, because you can give your wizard something totally bananas, you can give it an ogre blade, you can potentially give it a Walloper's one-hit wonder, and all of a sudden they're not just a wizard anymore, they are like a tactical nuke that you are dropping into the battlefield. And if the dice gods are, working in your favour, you can do some serious damage with this. You can become the Dragon Slayer. And this is what I really like about Warhammer, is the potential for just silly stuff like this. And so we've seen this in a lot of tournaments and a lot of play. People comboed it with the Mace of Hellstrom, which was a strength 10 weapon, with d6 wounds or something crazy like that.
But only for one attack, and then that got FAQ'd to be no longer.
Unfortunately. But so now the prevailing options are like the Ogre Blade, for example. I think there's some more weapons that people use. They might use the Dragon Slaying Sword, so you have a lot of chances to kill a dragon.
There's that one weapon from the Skaven have.
The Weeping Blade?
The Fell Blade.
Oh, the Fell Blade, yeah.
Yeah, which is really strong, but it has a chance to do a wound to you each turn on a Gracier, which, it's one of the few things Skaven have that is quite strong. This is, honestly, I think this is the best spell in the game.
If you build into it.
Yeah.
If you're just a random wizard dude with a hand weapon.
Absolutely. It's kind of meh compared to other assailments if you don't have a magic weapon on your wizard. But if you're taking illusion, you
have to build into it.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
In a lot of cases, when you're taking illusion, you're building for this spell. And this spell is so good that it's absolutely worth building for.
And the kit around it within illusion, they do sort of help you out with this build. At least the signature spell does. Some of the other spells definitely can give you a bit of assistance with your illusion death wizard, is what I would call them. So it's a pretty good option. I wouldn't say it's not overpowered or really, really strong. It's expensive.
No, because you're putting a squishy wizard into combat. Right?
Yeah, so you want a 5-up ward up save on it somehow. You want to give it a strong mount, like a Imperial Griffin or a Dragon, or something like that.
And then you can give him anything and then make him fly across the battlefield with the Shimmering Dragon, give him the -1 to get hit with the Glittering Robe, protect your flanks, or protect you from getting shot with the Column of Crystal. A lot of the lore is just really good at preventing enemies from hurting the wizard, so he can get into a charge with a big thing and kill it.
Maybe I should put a Spellweaver on a unicorn. I might have to make it look like a My Little Pony. And it's I'm glittering all over the place, and
you're just a disco ball of death.
Disco ball of death, yeah.
Yep. I love this one.
You should put a Night Goblin wizard on a big squig and paint it like disco ball.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea. Sadly, I don't think that the wizards can go on squigs.
Oh,
can they not?
I don't think so, but I'll double check.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Last spell then.
Is it me now?
Yep.
All right. Miasmic Mirage. Around the feet of the enemy, the earth itself shifts and blurs, causing warriors to trip and stumble upon half-imagined obstacles. It's a hex with a casting value of 11. I did not know that they went that high.
It goes all the way to 11.
A range of 15, and until your next start of turn subphase, the target enemy unit suffers a -2 modifier to its movement and cannot march or charge. And it scrubs all the hexes that are on the enemy. So, this is really strong.
Yeah.
Particularly for that can't march or charge. So, this turns off a dragon for 2 turns, or for one of your opponent's turns. Or it turns off, their big unit of scary Death Starriness. Or just, it stops whatever you don't want to get charged by. It is the hardest to cast spell that I've seen, but it is definitely worth it.
Yeah. It's so it's a 15-inch range, which I think is the longest range in the lore.
Yep. Shared with Mind Razor.
Yeah, and I think that -2 to movement, like if you think about it, human movement is 4. So like your Chaos Warriors and all the rest of them, that they're literally halving their movement.
And they can't march, so it's more than halving in a lot of cases.
Right, you can't march or charge. Right, so now you're going to shuffle forward between 2 and 3 inches.
If you're targeting cavalry with it, it might go down to 6.
Right, and I'd be okay if the cavalry only shuffled forward 6 inches. It'd be another whole round of shooting, right? This is a band like, yeah, it's a very strong spell, and with a high casting value, I think it really needs to be, because it's a very difficult to get off spell. That's a tough spell.
I think that might be one that you take one of those magic items that gives you a level 5 casting.
Book of Ashore. There's some other terms that you can take. The twin heads on the demon.
There's the Wand of Jet as well, isn't there?
Wand of Jet, I think. Yeah. And there's some other single-use items that let you roll an extra d6 and take the highest.
Yeah, like for this kind of thing, I think it's worth it. So that way you get better than a 55% chance to cast the spell.
Yeah.
But like if you get this off and you prevent your opponent from charging with their big dragon, then you can swing into their flank or whatever. Like, it's a very, very strong spell. I think. If you want to move into the grading, actually, I think that Illusion is an A tier lore. I think this is quite possibly the strongest lore in the game.
Literally only Mind Razor is the only not great spell.
Confounding Convocation is also not great.
I think Mind Razor is okay. I think Confounding Convocation is the only one that I would always look to trade out if I could. All the rest are like, these are reasonable through to amazing.
Yeah.
Which I think is all best you can hope for in a lore.
Yeah. The one thing that holds me back from putting this at like a high A+ or an S tier is that this...
There are no A+ or S tiers. We're going on proper A, B, C, D, E, F. Not A, B, C, D, F.
Okay. Well, the thing that holds me back from putting an A* or an A+ or just a high A is it's like you're taking a gamble if you take Illusion. If you want to get off this 11+ spell and completely negate their dragon, it's going to take a high casting roll. If you want to get off your super combo with your Spectral Doppelganger, you could roll a 2. You could roll really low and then just end up in combat with something way stronger than you. So there is an element of risk to taking Illusion that I actually like as a school of magic that makes it less consistent than something like Demonology or even Battle Magic. But there's a high volatility there. You could win big. And that's what I really like about this. And because of that, I would definitely put it at an A. Even though there's an element of risk, so I quite like that. It's a gambler. Sorry. It's a gambler school of magic.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any school of magic that isn't a gamble. Like even with Demonology, I had several turns where my demonic possession did not go off alongside. Like with Demonology, a lot of the spells kind of work together to make a really strong unit.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of games where I don't get off all the buffs that I want because there's so many high casting value spells. And I feel like a similar thing can happen with Illusion, but I don't think that holds it back from being a great lore. I think that's just a risk inherent to magic.
I think that what I would say is that the risk is higher with Illusion, because you're looking at, again, we'll compare it to Demonology. You have a signature spell that's basically a really good fireball that you can consistently throw out. I think the casting value is 8, so it's pretty easy to get.
I think it's 9. It's quite difficult.
Is it 9? But for these... We'll come to Demonology soon, but for this, it feels a little more risky. But there's nothing that will match the payout of a Spectral Doppelganger build wizard just flying into something and doing however many wounds. So I quite like that.
Yep. I tend to agree. I haven't used this yet because I've been enjoying bringing my Tree Man Ancient as my spellcaster, but it's next on the list. It seems like it's got a lot of utility, and I do really want to try out the whole doppelganger thing. I think everybody who has been able to do it now has done it.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I got to do it at least once, see how it is. I would tend to give this an A. It seems like a very strong lore, even if you're not taking a lore familiar. Chucking 4 dice at this, there's only one spell in it where I'm like, I really don't want that one.
Trade it out for Glittering Robe, which is
you
also
trade
really
it out
good.
for Glittering Robe, which is very good. I tend to judge. So that's the other thing is, you can take a level 1 illusionist and they'll have a chance of actually casting Glittering Robe, which there are a couple of different units in the game that only get to have level 1 or 2 in certain lores. I could see myself doing that. Whereas, in the last one, we couldn't do that because the signature spell was just so bad. Like you wouldn't bother taking a level 1 to cast that signature spell. While I appreciate the game is dominated by level 4s right now, I'm trying to think about, so if we take a digression for just a moment, like in 8th ed, there were definitely builds of armies where, yes, you'd absolutely see the level 4, but you might also see 2 or 3 level 1s. That was particularly popular with like Lore of Metal and other things that had very good signature spells. And so I'm looking at this signature spell. The Glittering Robe, it's actually going to, you can only use it once per unit, right? So, but you could have it on multiple units.
And it is range self, so it's, nice to have other wizards in different units to buff them up.
Right. So that's, theoretically possible. Like, for example, what I was thinking about is the War Dancer character is called a Shadow Dancer and can be a level 1 illusionist wizard. And so it's like, okay, yeah, I could see that being -1 to hit on my War Dancers. That'd be
Very nice.
pretty neat. I mean, nothing is cheap in the Wood Elf army.
It's not a hugely expensive character, though. Like,
no, and he's pretty amazing. Like, I think they're like 85 points or something like that, and then you have to pay for the wizard level on top of that. And every wizard level costs 30.
but like giving -1 to hit on War Dancers is very good because War Dancers die a lot, and
Yeah.
they already have high weapon skills, so they're going to be hit on 4s already,
Right.
and they're going to get shot off less with this as well.
Yeah, and I think the Shadow Dancer is like weapon skill 8, and so he'd be very difficult to hit.
He's getting
at
hit
that
on
point.
6s by anything with weapon skill 3
Yeah. So
with that spell.
So it's interesting to think about it from those terms. This is more than just something useful for L4s.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mark, do you want to give it your grade?
Yeah, I would give it A, to be honest. It is really, really good.
It does seem that way. Shall we? Do we have time for one more lore? Do we think?
I think we have time for one more. Yeah.
All right. So the next most common, which is why we did it in this way in the first place, because I thought this one would be the most common, is battle magic. So everybody has battle magic. The ones who don't are Beastmen, Tomb Kings, Vampire Counts, and Chaos Dwarfs. So, other than that, everybody else gets access to it. So, battle magic. I think, Mark, you're up.
Yep. Hammerhand, the signature spell, as the Battle Mage chants an invocation, their fists become like hammers, falling upon their foe with great and terrible power. It's an assailment spell with a nice cheap casting value of 7+ in combat, and a single enemy unit the caster is engaged with suffers 2d3 strength 4 hits, each with an AP of -2.
This is great.
Yeah, really good. Cheap, strong.
I think it's a decent signature spell. I mean, it's an assailment, which, as we were talking about earlier, assailments
Aside from Spectral Doppelganger.
Yeah,
Yep.
you have to build for them, or but
It's nice to have.
I think like the Tree Man Ancient, right? She can take this and then put her in combat. She's actually got a decent chance of some good combat output. But yeah, it's okay.
It's good. It's a very sort of it's a nice to have because you give your wizard some utility in combat, I think.
Yep.
The AP2 is great. Strength 4 is great. You're not getting many hits, but if you compare it to
How many attacks you're doing?
yeah, it's like it's almost like having a couple of unit champions just appear and hit someone with a pretty good weapon. So it's not bad. It's not amazing. It's an assailment spell, and they all sort of fall into, except for Spectral Doppelganger, they all sort of fall into the same category of like, oh, that's good if I get in combat. Yeah,
I think this one's really good because it's cheap. Like, you will get this off every time.
7-up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. But on the level 1, not to interrupt, but on the level 1 wizard conversation, is that maybe an argument for having a level 1 battle magic?
Or so like again, obviously you see everything through the Wood Elf filter at the moment. The Tree Man Ancient starts at a level 2. It's built into the points. So, at level 2, you're getting that off on a 5+, which is pretty darn good. So
Especially for the reward you're getting.
right. Yeah, exactly. 2d3, strength 4, AP -2 hits in close combat. Like, that's a lot of potential combat res for, a monster or something similar. So yeah, I definitely see this having a use for level 1 or level 2 wizards, especially if you're. There are some sort of there are definitely some models out there that are not pure wizards, right? But have some wizard available to them.
Heralds in the Demon's Army.
Lore Masters of Hoeth.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I guess anyone who puts the wizarding hat on.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't even thought about that. That's a good one.
I never think about the wizarding hat.
Yeah.
Because I keep looking, it's stupidity. But stupidity's not quite so bad anymore.
Right.
You can still walk forward and cast spells.
I think you can shoot too, right?
Yeah, you can do everything but charge and move in any way except directly forward up to your movement.
Yeah.
So stupidity's not quite so bad, especially not for wizards. So that means you're always getting off your spell with a wizarding hat. But then again, an assailment kind of needs you to be in combat, and you can't charge if you become stupid.
Yes.
So
it's true.
Maybe you could
it's fine.
take the hat off, charge, put the hat back on.
Too stupid to take the hat off.
Hold this, Squire.
It's interesting. The hat does have a description in it saying like the voices of the wizards talk to you. So in my head, it's like the Sorting Hat from Harry Potter. It's just fucking bad mouthing you as you're going up there, and so you end up stopping because you're arguing with your hat.
Absolutely. No, don't ride that way. That's silly. What do you know? You're just a hat.
All right, on to the regular spells then. The first one up is Fireball.
Talking about it this whole time.
Yep. With a snap of their fingers, the battle mage summons forth a roiling ball of magical flame and hurls it at a nearby foe. All right, nice and simple. Magic missile goes off on an 8+, a whopping 24-inch range, and the target enemy unit suffers 2d6 strength 4 hits, no AP, and flaming attacks. This is the gold standard of magic missile, right? Either you're as good as a fireball or you're not.
And therefore not worth taking.
It is the comparison. The fireball is actually available to everyone because of Ruby Ring of Ruin.
Everyone but dwarves.
Everyone but dwarves. Yep. Yeah. Fuck those guys.
Losers.
Sorry, Ben.
That's okay. They're my second army. I'm on an empire kick right now, so I won't take offense.
Yeah. It's a very solid, like 2d6 strength 4 hits. It's chaff removal, right? Anything that is chaff is likely going to die to a fireball. And anything that has the defensive capabilities of chaff will also die to a fireball.
So all of Wood Elves.
Pretty much, yeah.
Especially with all their flammable trees.
Right, and actually, frankly, a lot of other units, right? It's not. I mean, I know I say that a lot, but it's not just the Wood Elves, right? There's a lot of units out there that don't have much armor. Even armor is not going to save you a whole ton here, because it does put out quite a and like on average 7 strength 4 hits. Now you could easily whiff and roll a double 1 or 3 hits or whatever.
Right, but assuming it's 7, you're going to get about like 4 wounds or so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which if you can do that consistently, you're pretty happy with that.
Yeah, 4 wounds, and then you take it to the armor, and you're going to get at least 2 dead guys again, unless they got a really good save.
Yeah.
So
not bad for a shooting attack.
And then you do it again with your Ruby Ring of Ruin.
Yeah.
And considering it's only an 8+, and it's such a big range, like it's a good spell.
Yep.
It's not amazing, but it's a good spell. Next up, Ben.
Oh, yeah. Curse of Arrow Attraction. With a cry and a flourish, the battle mage curses an enemy, causing missiles to seek them out with almost sentient awareness. It's a hex, cast on a 7-up, very low, and it's 21-inch range, so pretty big. Until your next start of turn subphase, you may re-roll any hits, any rolls to hit of a natural 1 when shooting at the target enemy unit. So it's only shooting this time. It's not combat. You get to re-roll.
It's not Curse of Sword Attraction.
Yeah, it's you get to re-roll 1s. Easy to cast, very long range. Nice to have in a gun line.
This is
not
a
going to make a
really-
massip impact, though. I don't think.
This is a really big impact on Tomb Kings specifically. It's
Oh,
the only
yeah.
way that they can buff their shooting to hit, because Arrows of Asaph, while it's great that you don't get any negative modifiers, you also don't get any positive modifiers. So this is not a positive modifier, this is a reroll, which doesn't trigger that. So you can...
It's pretty good.
Yeah, hitting
That
on
is
5s,
really
rerolling
good.
1s is a lot better than
Yeah.
just hitting on 5s. Especially with their Shabti, who hit on 4s.
Yeah.
So you can get very consistent shooting with this spell.
You've gone from a 50-50 chance to hit to a 75% chance to hit, which is
Yeah.
amazing.
That's a massive hit. And I guess if you want to increase the scale
Oh,
of the use you're
No,
getting up,
my math's wrong. But anyway, sorry. It's still a buff.
it's higher.
It's higher.
Yeah. I think if you want to increase the scale of the use you're getting out of it, you put it on one unit, and then all your shooting units shoot that one unit. That's you get
Yep.
economy of scale that way.
Right.
So-
Which is really how you should be with your shooting units anyway, right? You want to kind of be, targeting down one unit with all of your shooting. So
Yeah, I quite like this. I think the Tomb King examples are a really chance for it to be strong. But would it not work really well with a Hellblaster volley gun?
Oh yeah,
I
totally.
can put out up to 30, from 0 to 30 shots.
Yeah.
Yep, and if you have an engineer re-rolling or letting it use their ballistic skill, potentially 2 Hellblaster volley guns is something I've seen a lot, and you fire them both at the same unit with this re-rolling of 1s. I think that thing is just dead.
It's also really good with the Outriders if you want to throw out a whole bunch of shots with them.
3 shots each, 6 Outriders is 18 shots.
And it's so easy to cast. I think another reason it's really good in Tomb Kings and Empire is because those are 2 factions that can take a lot of low-level wizards and make it worthwhile. Empire because they're really cheap. Tomb Kings because they want a lot of wizards anyway.
Yeah.
And with Tomb Kings, I feel like having a wizard in your unit of archers or just nearby, casting this on whatever they need to kill, and just resurrecting anyone else nearby is a really good investment for a level 1 wizard.
Yeah.
Or
That's a good idea.
possibly a higher level wizard. But it's just it's a very good spell.
What do we think about this with Dark Elves, Mark? Because you do have those fancy crossbows.
Yeah.
that shoot a lot.
But quite inaccurately.
Yeah, exactly. That's a problem. I was thinking about it more so for Empire, but now you mentioned Dark Elves. Yeah. If you had something quick, which Dark Elves do and most Elves do, with their steeds are always, I think, movement 9, stick something on a steed, have it kind of fly around the battlefield a little bit. Just anything that needs to be shot at, shoot at it. It would work really well if you took as many Reaper Ball throwers as you could. Figured out some way, perhaps use one of the later spells in this lore to move some archers up, crossbowmen, that kind of thing. Because between the Dark Riders being really fast but also having short range, and the same deal with the regular crossbowmen, that would help massively. I think that would actually be a really good combo. I initially thought this was a bad spell, but it's like some of the illusion stuff where you have to build, these parts of your army around it. But if you do, it's going to have a big effect.
I mean, it's not amazing, right? It is good, but it's not amazing. It's not just re-roll misses; it's re-roll 1s.
Yeah.
So I think
For a 7+, it's
for a 7
really
plus, it's decent enough. How much utility you actually get out of it during any given game, I don't know. I do like that it's not remains in play, so it can't be dispelled. So you do get at least, not that it really matters because you would only get one.
It would technically be better if it was remains in play in this case.
Potentially it might be actually.
The remains in play is just really sucky for things like Fleshy Abundance, which,
Right.
+1 toughness, and then your opponent dispels it, and it doesn't matter.
Yep.
I believe you're next up for Pillar of Fire.
Me?
Yep.
Didn't I do Fireball?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's you.
Oh, yeah, hang on. No, Ben did it. Right, that's fine. I thought, because Mark was talking. Oh, whatever.
All right.
All right, so I'm next up. So, Pillar of Fire. The battle mage conjures a fireball. No, that's the last spell. Which quickly grows to become a towering pillar. Loosed from their grasp, it advances towards the enemy. It's a magical vortex with a casting value of 9+ and a range of 12 inches. Remains in play with a small, the 3-inch blast template. So it's you place that within 12 inches with a central hole. I'm just going to restart that. It's terrible.
It's okay.
It remains in play. Place a 3-inch blast template so that the central hole is within 12 inches of the caster. Whilst in play, the template is treated as dangerous terrain. The template moves d6 inches in the direction of the caster's choosing during every start of turn subphase. Any unit, friend or foe, the moving template touches or moves over suffers d3+3 strength 3 hits, each with an AP of -2. These hits are flaming. This is one of the better vortices, I think, or vortexes.
Vortices, yeah. Both are used these days.
Until you charge your own Blackguard into your own vortex.
Yes, that's what Mark did against when we played Empire versus Dark Elves. You charged into your own Pillar of Fire.
That
So you
that
stick it on the
-2
side.
AP, that really hurt.
You can dispel it at the start of any subphase.
I didn't at the
You
time.
didn't at the time, but
I
now
did-
you do.
Yeah.
Now you do.
Won't do it again.
Abby's first magical vortex.
Yeah.
It's good, right?
It does damage. It definitely does damage.
Yeah.
I think this is just better than Summon Elemental Spirit from Elementalism.
Right.
This is just a better version of that.
You can choose where it goes. 6 inches. That's
D-
quite. That's pretty
D6,
good.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's like if you're rolling a scatter die, but you get the highest one every time, right?
Well, it's only d6.
Oh, it's only D6. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's d6 inches in a direction of your choice.
Oh, so it's not 6 inches every time. Okay.
Yeah.
That does limit it a bit. It might just wobble around the same spot.
Well, it doesn't have to wobble is the thing, because it's a direction of your choosing. So what you do is you slap it down 1 inch in front of an enemy unit. Then they have to choose, do I want to walk through this to get to where I want to go, or do I want to sit there and take the hit? Either way, I'm getting hit. But if I walk through it,
Yeah.
I might get hit twice. So that's the main use that I see for it. It can also, if you roll a 6 and you place it near multiple units, you can get a couple hits off of it on multiple different units, which is quite nice.
Did that not happen in a game we were playing where there's like a giant or something? Or
I don't think so. I think that I've never run Battle Magic, and I think the only magical vortex you've ever used against me has been Phantasmagoria.
That's what I'm thinking of,
which
yeah.
is horrible.
also a template. That's
Yeah.
what I was thinking of. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, as vortexes go and remains, with all the same caveats, this is a decent enough one. It's got a fairly high casting value for what it does, though.
I mean, it hits.
9+.
Yeah,
So, yeah, it's okay. I think it's one of the weaker spells in the lore.
yeah, but it's not it's not an auto replace. I don't think.
No,
I don't know that there are any in Battle Magic.
maybe not.
Mark, you're next up.
Arcane Urgency. As the battle mage's allies march, time around them slows, allowing them to cover great distances in the blink of an eye. It's a conveyance spell, casting value of 10+, so expensive enough, range of 15. If the target friendly unit is not fleeing and has already moved during this movement phase, it may immediately move again. I used this once before in the Bretonnian one, and it actually worked really well to block up Bretonnian charge. So I actually like this one, but it is situational, I think.
I mean, of all of the conveyances we've read so far, this is the best, in my opinion. I mean, I know the other one gives you fly, but this is the most, sort of generally practical. I have moved, and now I want to move again. So you can. It's not like you can march again, right?
Yeah,
this is
the most obvious use is double your speed.
Yep.
However, you can also reform and then cast this, so that way you can march you can march backwards essentially.
Right.
or use it to go into line hammer after you've moved.
Right.
What if you had drilled on a unit?
Yeah, you could redress twice.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, so this really allows you to move fast.
Funnily enough, the dwarves have a version of this on the Anvil of Doom.
Yes.
I know the one you're talking about. It's not
Stralla's
Wrath
rune?
and Ruin. Stralla's, yeah, I think it's Stralla's. Oh, it's not Hearth and Home.
Stralla's
Hearth
is
and Home?
no Hearth and Home is the whatever.
Yeah.
Strola's would make sense
Strola's-
given the name.
I think
Yeah.
Stralla's is a banner one though.
Well, whatever it is,
Anyway,
off it goes, and they get to move again. But yeah, what do you guys think of this spell?
I think this one's pretty good. The casting value is quite high, but on a level 4, this is a really solid conveyance spell. When it goes off, it's going to be really useful. When it doesn't, it's not the biggest deal unless it's like don't rely on it to do too much, I don't think, with that high casting value, but just really solid additional movement.
That is the highest casting value in the lore.
Yeah.
So,
Pretty good.
Yep.
alrighty.
Am I up next?
No, me.
Oh, okay.
Oaken Shield. The battle mage summons a mighty spectral oak around themselves and their allies, protecting them from the weapons of their enemies. This is an enchantment. It goes off on a very low 7+, probably because it is range self. Until your next start of turn subphase, caster and any unit they've joined gain a 5 upward save against any wounds suffered. I think that's really strong.
Very good.
Very, very good.
Yeah, and I've had it used against me.
Highlight of the lore.
No, I haven't, but I've definitely suffered from something very similar. Yeah, I think this is very good if you've got regen and an armor save already. Giving yourself a ward save is great, right? Having 3 saves in a row, it really chips away at how much damage you're taking.
Those stupid skeletons.
Yeah.
So this is just a better version of Earthen Ramparts, I think. The low linear obstacle thing is neat, but it's not amazing. I feel like having a casting on 7+ is really, really strong.
Yeah, compared to the 10+ of Earthen Ramparts,
The thing about Earthen Ramparts is it's not range self.
right?
So you
that's
can
true.
stick your wizard out the back of the unit, so they're safe.
Yeah.
And
Still pretty good.
yeah, it's pretty good. I like this spell a lot.
Yeah.
It's very good for a wizard who is on a big dragon as well, which could be fun. Just to give himself a 5 award save, save the points on buying a talisman preservation.
All right, Ben, you're up.
Last but also least, in my opinion, is Curse of Cowardly Flight. As the war drums beat, the battle mage reaches into the minds of the enemy, tapping into their fears and weakening their intestinal fortitude. So you can fill in the gaps there about what this spell does. Type is Hex, casting value is 9 up, and range is 15 inches. Let me read the description. The target enemy must immediately make a panic test. If the target unit automatically passes any... The target enemy unit must immediately make a panic test. If the target unit automatically passes any panic tests it is required to make for any reason, they must still make this test, and should it fail, it will give ground. So, take a panic test. If you fail, give ground.
Well, no. Take a panic test. That's it.
Yeah.
If you fail, you flee.
If you don't normally take panic tests because you're unbreakable or immune to psychology, you give ground.
I've been reading this wrong the whole time. I was like, take a panic test, and if you fail, you give ground. If you can flee?
Yeah.
I mean,
Now all of a sudden it's become a bit better.
a bit. I still think it's the worst spell in the lore.
I tend to agree.
Panic is an easier thing to prevent than a lot of other... you can get immune to psychology, which comes from frenzy as well as unbreakable. All of those, I mean, you just give ground, which is not a big deal. I'd rather get hit by wind blast.
Yeah.
As well as just having such high leadership and so much access to rerolls for panic tests as well. Panic isn't ever going to be an amazing thing, and for a 9+, that's really expensive for for what it's giving you. Especially with only a 15-inch range. I think that this is not an amazing spell. Not even that good of a spell.
Yeah.
I suppose if you could build into it with...
There are other lores that do that better, though.
If you could get some sort of thing that lowers leadership, I think there's something to do with the...
Necromancy has a lot of things in that.
Cauldron of Blood. No? Okay.
Yeah, I mean...
I feel like if you want to go into the leadership build, Necromancy does it better. or demonology.
It
Or
just seemed
dark
like
magic.
a little bit of an extra thing that they added onto the lore that doesn't really fit in with everything else.
Yeah.
I do think this is the weakest spell in the lore. This and honestly, Curse of Arrow Attraction is very situational. So the curses are not my favorite part of the lore. That's for sure.
What is it? The fireball?
I think actually, yeah, it's a combination. Like I like Hammerhand. I think that's a pretty good signature. It's not overpowered, but it's pretty good, and it goes off on a low 7. Fireball is just it is a great spell. And then I think also the Oaken Shield and Arcane Urgency are both very solid as well. So I'm giving this a B. I think Battle Magic is
B for battle.
B for battle. It's not amazing. It's not awful. I think it's pretty easy to use, right? There's not really a lot of subtlety about what you've got in Battle Magic, right? Fireball does exactly what it says on the tin, right? Arcane Urgency,
more, you move
nice
more.
and easy. Yeah, exactly. You shoot more, you move more, you defend more, and maybe you'll scare somebody, and you're going to pop out a big pillar of fire to move around every now and again.
It's just more shooting.
Yeah, so it's pretty simple to use, but it's also there's 3 spells in it that go off on a 7+, which
It's excellent for low level wizards.
exactly. So yeah, I very solid B from me.
I agree. I think that the Curse of Arrow Attraction is a bit better than you're giving it credit for, particularly for Tomb Kings.
Sure.
They do have access to this, right?
Yeah. Let me double check the spreadsheet.
I'm dreading this now because I think they might not actually have access to it.
No, they don't. Oh, there we go.
Oh, that sucks.
It would be good, except they do not get it. Well, now you know. Now you can take your wizarding hat.
Yeah. Yeah. So clearly, the correct choice is to have a flying carpet wizarding hat wizard. Take all the goofy magic items.
That'd be hilarious, except you can't.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Bad game.
Yeah. You can't take them both in the same character.
Yeah. I think Pillar of Fire is pretty decent. I think it's probably the best of the vortices. I think Curse of Cowardly Flight is a real letdown in the lore, but other than that, I think everything else is decent. I agree with the B placement.
Yeah. I also want to give it I know we're not doing like pluses and stuff, but I'll give it like a B+ or a B sharp. I don't know, like a
B sharp.
B sharp, yeah. B sharp major, and because I think it's consistent. It's consistently pretty good. There's one kind of stinker, but the rest of them are good. And Fireball is in this School of Magic. That almost makes me want to put it up to an A because Fireball is.
I know that Fireball's insane on its own. Like, if you want to put this in A because of Fireball, I feel like Demonology is just.
Oh no, Demonology would have been my S tier.
Right, that's why we're not doing S tier.
Okay, all right, it's good. All right, it's just a B then.
If Fireball was the signature spell,
Yes.
this would be an A.
Yeah,
for sure. Because then, you could take level 2s, and you'd be guaranteed Fireball.
And one of the other really good spells.
Right. But yes, I think that's why it's Hammerhand instead.
I also just realised that B sharp is just C. So that would be me putting it in C. So no, yeah, it's just B.
Oh yeah, the higher one would be B flat, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Mark, do you want to be controversial and go against the groupthink?
It has the least potential, I think. Compared to something like Illusion, there's less you can do with it. You can build stuff for Curse of Arrow Attraction for sure, but other than that, I mean, Arcane Urgency is nice. There's nothing apart from Arcane Urgency that is 10 plus or higher, so just don't put it on a level 4 like I've been doing so far. It's not going to be worth it. You'll get your spells off, but there's only so much they can do.
That is true. It is not great on a level 4.
So, multiple level 2s, maybe a level 3, leave it at that. And I would say maybe only if you have multiple wizards. Definitely
Right.
if you only have one. Don't let this be the only lore you have in your army.
I think this is a favorite of Empire lists, probably.
Yeah.
I think if we are able to push the meta up to 2,500 points, we start to see multiple wizards in lists, and I think we'll see more battle magic and on lower level wizards.
Yeah.
When you're I don't know. We'll see. I think Fireball having such a long range, you literally can deploy out on a flank and still do damage in the middle of the battlefield, while being out of range of a level 4 dispel. So, I think there's we'll see how it goes, but I think that's we've hit the nail on the head here. Battle Magic, maybe not the best for L4s, but still a solid lore.
Yeah, I give it a B, but only with the caveat that I'm going to actually say that Elementalism, I think I give it a B. I'll give that a C instead, because this is definitely better than Elementalism, but...
so Elementalism has slipped to a C grade overall then?
All right, so we have a nice grading at the end of the 3 laws we've done today. Of
Yeah.
A for Illusion, B for Battle Magic, and C for Elementalism.
Yeah, I thought Battle Magic was worse than... sorry, it's actually better than I thought it was, but considering what Elementalism is actually like, it's kind of like...
Yeah.
Good, but not great.
It's really good to take a critical look at the different lores.
Right, absolutely. And by the time we're done with the other 5, we might come back and go, oh, we need to revise all of these ratings? Who knows? Yeah.
All right, men. Rank up. We'll charge them in the flanks.
All right, well, I think that brings us about to a close. If you want to check out our Discord server, we've got a Discord server. Do we have an address for that, or is it just...
Well, you can just get to it by going to rankandflank.com/Discord and then click the link.
rankandflank.com/Discord. We've also got a blog at rankandflank.com.
And you buggers need to start writing articles. I'm holding up the whole... what is the term? It's holding up the fort. Holding down the fort. There we go.
Holding down the fort.
I'm holding down the fort by myself, and we're getting nothing but Wood Elves articles as a result. So, yeah, if you guys want to take a shot at writing some articles, that would be good.
I will have the best Wood Elf article you have ever seen.
I'm just going to say whatever the opposite of what you said is.
No.
It could be contrarian.
Dryads are great. Shut up.
Yeah. Gosh, that great stack sucks.
I would like you to write articles not about Wood Elves so that we have a little bit of variety. But
No, this is a Wood Elf blog.
If
We'll
you
capture the market.
It's interesting because the main image is actually Bretonnian on the front of the website.
Okay.
None of us play Bretonnians.
None of us do, but I had aspirations when the edition first came out.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
if you've got nothing else to cover, hang on. The Grand Tournament, go there.
oh yeah, yep. We'll keep you posted on the details for the tournament, but yeah, you'll get sick of us reminding you about the tournament, Grand Tournament.
Yeah,
in August.
Exactly.
2 days,
Yeah.
3rd and 4th. Mark them in your calendar. Come over from England. Come over from Scotland.
Come over from America.
Yeah, come from wherever, and we'll show you a good time in Ireland.
I think we've got nothing else.
I think that's probably it.
All right. Well,
Any parting thoughts from you, wonderful gentlemen?
Looking forward to Onslaught.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. 1,500 points.
Parting thoughts, just, be kind. Love one another.
Live, laugh, love.
save the world.
Live, laugh,
My
love.
final message. Goodbye.
And,
Fist of
Save the
Love in
cheerleader.
5.
and 7,000% of our audience isn't subscribed. So if you subscribe, you can save.
You can fix the math.
Yep.
Anyway, with that, I think we're good to call us a close.
I think so.
Bye bye.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Look.